Oh shit! I'm on. Hold on. I started streaming. Okay, let me pause it. I think I can pause. Oh, yeah. That's not. That can be on the internet. That's really interesting. Miami? I guess they have the. I was just gonna say that must be the draw, huh? I wonder if he's neighbors with the Mosbys. They have a house in Miami, don't they? Public servants. Well, they pick out the people that are not hiding it or being classy about it, and then they sacrifice that person to make us all think, oh, we rooted out the corruption. I mean, it's a good coincidence then that they do it so openly and like not really slyly. Borscht. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense. The lurking variable. Are you doing number two, Jordan? Wait, how is? Oh man, I just found out that the audio is muted for everyone but me. It's like reverse Longmont Potion Castle style. I can hear it because like I hear. Oh shit. I hear. Yeah, it's like Zoom is one program, and then I've got another program capturing Zoom. So like they have different settings, and I have to route them. And hey,
Because you're
Johan,
doing something
thanks for
else.
the heads up. I don't know what I would do without you. He thought it was a surreal bit. It was.
It's tight that Johan's here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good. We have
Johan
people
What's
who
makes
up,
the
aren't.
Johan?
effort. Gets here bright and early.
It's
How
good.
did
We
he
have
even
people
know?
who aren't us. Which
There's
is
Our own members don't even know this is happening half the time.
I was so upset when I thought that I just slept right through this last week. I hated myself so
I got
bad.
a notification that you had signed on to the Zoom call at like 11:30 or something.
Yeah,
It's like, okay.
yeah.
You know what I did after canceling, and I got out of work at 7, and I was like, like kind of freaking out about what's going on with where I'm gonna not knowing where I'm gonna live in like a month, and I was like, I'm gonna go to church because it's on my way home, and there's a silent mass at 7, and like I feel like in need of something external to like fucking fix me.
Yeah,
Why
for
I keep
sure.
saying I'm gonna go to church, and I'm always like, well, I got a Wolf pack, or I got this or that. I'm working, and so I was like, there's no excuse right now, and perhaps, just perhaps, in some silk-esque way, this will help me see like a cool other side to what's happening, with me getting bum rushed out of this house. But it was really interesting because the the priest was also. I want to just preference for everyone watching. I'm not and will never be trad Cath. I'm just regular Cath.
Which church did you go to? What?
I went to Philip and James,
Okay.
which is on Charles Street, close to Johns Hopkins. It's not the Hopkins Chapel, which also does like a Catholic mass,
Right.
but it is also have like some kind of Hopkins related stuff at it. It's awesome.
How Catholic was it?
I mean, so the silent mass, nobody sings and there's no organ.
Right.
I'd never been to one of those. I thought that was really interesting, especially in a room with a huge domed ceiling. And so like it really helped, like everything was kind of creepy and medieval. The priest was really young. And he, at the end, he announced that there would be a party after like 10:30 mass on the next week because he was leaving to go on to like the next stage of his thing. So I'm excited next time I go there, I'll see a whole new dude. The priest was cute. He was like, I mean, he wasn't like a super gripping homilist. But one of the coolest parts was when he began his homily, he said, today I want to talk about a question that we all have, especially lately, which is why do good things happen to bad people? And he meant, why do bad things happen to good people? But I got so excited because I was like, oh my God, this is I want this so bad. This is an amazing topic, and it's like strikes right to me. But he kept going, and it became clear he was talking about the other way around.
One is so interesting and one is so not.
Yeah. So I would give. I really think that it's my destiny to start doing like a ratings of local churches, and I would give this place really high marks for the atmosphere. The inside is beautiful, and there's just like every accoutrement icon you could hope for. There's just like a overload of candles. There's so many statues. The ceiling is gigantic. All the stained glass is great. Obviously I can't rate the music because there was no music for that service. Homily was like I would say not as boring as the last one I saw at the Basilica, but like not nothing to write home about. Nothing that would convert your skeptical friend or even entertain your skeptical friend. I'm just telling it like it is.
I experience a specific emotion that there isn't a word for, but it's very specific. And it is the feeling of wanting to explore a church or the church buildings like around it. It's a very specific feeling. Like I have a yearning to go inside of a church and then go into like the other hallways and to like go behind and around and downstairs and upstairs. Like I want to do this so bad. And I feel like it comes from being a kid. And I actually went to a Catholic school where there was a huge, beautiful church, and then like convents attached to it that were like seemed enormous to me. I don't know how big they really were, but as a child, they seemed like enormous and mysterious. And like one day we got to walk around in the convents for some reason. They were taking us somewhere there, and it was like I felt like I was exploring like a castle or something. This like old, secret, mysterious structure. Yeah. Anyway, that feeling just popped up in my head.
When I was a kid, I went to France with my family, and we went to a bunch of churches. Like, spent a lot of time in these like giant old churches. Part of it was there was a heat wave, and they were the nicest places to be because nowhere has air conditioning. But my mom is very interested in all that, being a member of the clergy.
What denomination is she? Methodist?
Methodist, yeah. I guess she's not technically anymore, but she was for a while, and at the time.
Y'all got very different churches than us.
I've spent a lot of time just exploring churches because my mom worked in churches when I was a kid, so I was just like in them all the time. Not Catholic churches, but
very, very different than Methodist churches.
I've
explored both Methodist and Catholic churches.
In my experiences of being inside most modern Catholic churches in Alabama, at least, I think they're pretty similar.
Like being in a Walmart.
It's more like being in a just like a community center, or like, you know, it's just like an institutional building in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
So sometimes a
I
little
went
bit
a
nicer.
bunch of. When I was in Italy. I was in a city that's like just very old. Like you just feel like it's not like a modern city. Like it feels like you went back 200 years or something. And I went in a bunch of churches there, and I just want to say, when you go in old Catholic churches in Italy, you have to go in the basement because all the cool weird shit's down in the basement.
Yeah.
Like, all the weird reliquaries and like just like mummified people and shit.
I think the basilica
In Mount
across from
Calvary,
library
the
has it.
reliquary is in the safe, which is just immediately behind the altar. It's a walk-in
and
safe.
some of the
I've gotten to touch all the relics.
Nice.
They got a Lizzie Ann Seton. They got a relic of the True Cross second class, which means that it's a thing that touched the cross.
Nice.
I'm saying they'll have like a case where there's like a very old human body with like clothes on.
And that's what's fueling the church.
Some lady, you know. And then there'll be like another case that's like, if you went in a store and there's like a jewelry case with like shelf, you know, like a glass case with like a shelf in it with like multiple layers, and it's just like piles of other tiny like unknowable
like
relics.
bits of saints' fingers.
Yeah, just like bits and pieces.
Yeah.
I'm just
Treasure.
saying, you gotta go in the basements.
In the reliquary in Mount Calvary, they have like literal treasure, like gold and jewels. Those people are weird. When I first started playing with that church, my mom asked what they did for the poor, which was a really, really interesting question. And I've been thinking about it in the 5 years since. And they don't do anything for the poor. Like, they own multiple houses that they just give to people who are active in the church. So it's a bunch of skinny little white people who like play for the symphony and teach at private school.
They probably do a food drive twice a year. So
no, they don't.
Wow.
They
don't
just
even do the food
allow the
drive?
poor to come to breakfast with us each.
The food drive is the laziest, easiest way to help the poor that anyone could possibly do. Like, bring a box of mac and cheese or a can of beets.
No, that church
You are.
is only raising money to support the museum Catholicity of that church.
Yeah.
And give houses to the members who, because that's a church that, if you're not careful, going to that church can be something that you do all day, every day. So if you do that, they give you a house.
Church and real estate is highly entwined in Baltimore City. I don't know how it works in the rest of
Everything's
the
highly
country.
entwined with real estate.
Yeah.
You don't survive if you're not
And
entwined with real
you
estate,
get
huh?
churches, grant me, and like real estate, and like, I don't know, like the old Baltimore establishment are like very finely like wound together, along with politics and the police, if I am to understand season 2 of The Wire.
Yeah.
Documentary about the city we live in.
I mean, it kind of is. I think it's got a lot of veracity to it. But,
It's got Frank Sabatka, and I love him.
mhm. Yeah, sad story.
Yeah.
And Ziggy. You know that Ziggy came out recently and
Yeah.
outed like his teacher for molesting him a million years ago in, I don't know if it was Pikesville or somewhere in Baltimore County.
Something like that, yeah.
Hmm. I think that Bill Murray's going to get called out.
What?
Oh, yeah,
I think
you're
that Bill
fine.
Murray's going to get Me Too'd any second now.
Why?
I've just been seeing a lot of articles talking about how he's douchey, and then yesterday an article came out about how his co-star on Stripes, he was constantly trying to get her to fuck him, and she'd be like, I'm married, not now, Bill, and he'd be like, yeah, okay, and then do it again the next night. And I just feel like we're gearing up towards these are the ways in which Bill Murray has overstepped his bounds, because there's no way that he hasn't.
Yeah, I
But
believe.
yeah, I mean, it could be any. I feel like, what, 80-90% of, male celebrity dudes throughout
Who
you
have
know, up
contact
until
with
like
Lorne Michaels.
now. Yeah, I mean, they all probably have that in their closet. I mean, most regular guys have something like that in their closet. You
Yeah,
know,
because it
like
used to not be something that you had to have in a closet. It used to just be normal fucking
right,
behavior.
exactly. Yeah, it was like totally there. Yeah, and
I
now like people are reflecting on it.
I feel
They're
like
like, what the fuck? This is just what you do. You're mad at me about this?
there needs to be, I feel like, more of an exploration of like traits that travel together, like ambition and being too, like aggressive sexually. Like I think that there's a desire for them not to be connected, and like the desire that we could have everything we have now minus the molesting the way we have it now, but that's just a wish, and we have like it's just a wish, and we don't want to poke into that because we might find out that it's not, that there's things attached to each other, bad things and good things. Not to say
Yeah,
that
I feel
that
like we think of our personalities as equations that you can just alter one variable and fix the problem. But if you change, and this is definitely something I think is true about personalities, but I think it's true about nearly every aspect of reality. If you change one thing, you're going to change everything.
Mhm. and
And everything will always change.
And especially with people who have made a huge effort, in most cases an obsessive effort, at achieving something that involves fame and power. Like the idea that we can have that's a normal thing, and then these glitches occur where somebody is bad and sneaks through the meritocracy is so ridiculous.
Well, I mean, you're kind of talking about it from like an aspect of like that's all part of their personality wound up. I would also add the element that there's like these systems in place for when people enter into those systems,
Mm-hmm.
then they are granted, you know, this sort of like this sets of behavior, basically, like that are like offered to them, right? Like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know anything about the past of Bill Murray, and maybe he always kind of had like some kind of uh, personality tick to him that like drove him to power and drove him to kind of assert himself in multiple ways. But also, like, say you're just someone, and at a certain point in your life, you are a person who is given an unlimited amount of money and access and power and not really that many serious responsibilities, and everyone around you loves you and is acting in a certain way around you. I imagine that once you're part of that system, that your behavior is going to change, right? Like you're going to start interacting with the world much differently than a regular person would. Like I think that there's like this enabling mentality, that
Mm-hmm.
like idolizes people and puts them onto pedestals. And once they get there, then it's like, oh, cool. Now I'm here. I can act however I want. There's,
I think those things go hand in hand. I think, yeah, it like whatever your worst tendencies are, they're gonna
right.
get they're gonna get exacerbated.
Like it's much rarer, I think, for someone to enter into that kind of thing and to kind of have like a humble personality about it. I imagine even most humble or whatever regular ass people who go into a system like that, they're going to become changed by it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Totally. I recently watched a thing of Jackie Gleason talking about how his career affected and changed him, and like how every time the company wanted to kind of take a piece of him, his soul, the Jackie Gleasonness away, they would shower him with praises and give him anything he wanted. And whenever that happened, whenever that started happening, he knew that he was going to have to do something that he would never want to do. And then he would like start to figure out how to game that and like toy with them about whether or not he was going to do the thing that they wanted to do, so that he could have a train built that went right from the honeymooner set to the casino he liked in Florida and stuff like that. So like you start feeling like, well, they're destroying my soul, so fuck it, I'm gonna get a train out of this. It's my soul, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I
right.
think this also dovetails into that conversation that we've had before about the different kinds of power and the different sources of power, and like how you achieve different kinds of power, and like power that's like generative power versus extractive power.
Yeah, I think about the people I've known who they don't feel like they're succeeding unless like somebody else is like your success is directly making it so somebody else isn't successful, or it doesn't count as success unless you cheated somehow. You had to like pull one over on somebody. If you got success just in a normal fair way, that doesn't count, kind of thing.
I was gonna say also, as regards like power and like sexual exploitation or whatever, it's like we have a tradition in which you gain power by subjugating other people. So it makes sense if you're like trying to like, you're on this track to like becoming famous or like whatever it is, then you have to like kind of like step on other people along the way. So you know, that's an easy way to, it's an easy way to like do that is to like, it also
Like the rabbits.
Yeah.
When we were talking about earlier.
Exactly, exactly right. Like, I'm gonna hump you in the head.
Yeah.
Because it not only like makes you powerful, but it like it makes the other it like does a thing to the other person too. That makes them like, it knocks them down.
Well, and fame, wanting fame, is an interesting thing too, because like it's kind of inherently, it's not you can't be famous by just doing a good job at a thing, you know. Like the nature of fame is saying like, I am better than the other, you don't know them and you know me, I'm better than them, I feel like. So that hierarchical thing is built into fame, where like if I'm just good at making this thing, I can make this thing. It doesn't matter whether or not people recognize it, I know it's good.
And I feel like if you have some success and you don't learn the lesson from that you were already great and this just confirms it, then you don't push farther. Like people who are like, oh shit, some success, huh? They don't like need the next level, you know, like their identity is wrapped up in the thing they did and not what happened with it. And I think that's the very rare form of person. And the thing is they don't usually last in fame because they're not like getting pushed into that cycle of like, okay, I was good, but am I really good? Like if I'm really good, then I need the next thing.
I do think that there are occasions, like listening to Dave Chappelle talk about his experience, I do think that there are some people who are pushed beyond their ambition in the system. And I think like when Dave Chappelle's talking about Martin Lawrence going nuts and waving a gun around on the street saying they're trying to kill me, or Mariah Carey going on Total Request Live and having a breakdown, like I think those are results of people who have been taken by the system and then pushed beyond themselves so much that like they don't have ambition or anything anymore. They just want to be, and they aren't any longer.
Yeah.
Britney Spears is somebody that I think of too.
She's like I feel like the goddess of that for our culture. Totally. And just
though, I mean, no, I guess not. I think about crap. I keep forgetting this woman's name lately, and I really like her. Red carpet lady. She always talks trash about
Joan Rivers.
Yeah, watching the Joan Rivers movie, I wonder where she falls on the spectrum, because she's clearly very ambitious, but inhuman. Like, and not in necessary. I think that Joan Rivers was mostly used her celebrity as a kind of positive force, or interacted with it in a positive way. Like she has this part where she's talking about like, I want to go out and tell this joke. In my day, we had Jackie O. Now we have Blackie O. And her whole staff is like, you can't say that joke. And she's like, I don't understand why I can't say that joke. That joke is funny, and that's what jokes are supposed to be. But I recognize that all these people and their children going to college hinges upon me telling successful jokes. So I have to not tell this joke. Which I thought was a really interesting way to interact with their celebrity, to recognize, like, I'm not a person who is expressing themselves. I am a company, and I have responsibility to all of the employees of this company.
That's why Fish got back together after they broke up.
Oh, I have not been following the exploits of Fish.
I haven't. I just heard it from a dealer that I once knew who was really into them. He explained a lot of like Fish facts to me, and one of them was like they broke up because it was like they had just done everything. You know, they had toured and played those songs and played them again, and they wanted to, you know, the guys were like fatigued, wanted to move on, do other stuff. And then after they broke up, they realized how many people's careers and families were like insanely impacted by it. And they were like, it's fucked up. We can't break up.
Yep.
And I think,
Yep.
I don't really know. I'm just projecting onto this story, but in my head, the version of this is that they liked playing more than they ever had before when they got back together.
Maybe
That's
it's on
interesting.
purpose.
That like it meant something totally different to them. Like it was no longer them like their thing that was coming out of them. It was like
Yeah.
the world's role for them.
It was a calling rather than just them putting their art out there and trying to get famous.
Yeah, it had bigger meanings than their ego,
Fish
like
is industrial
humongously
complex,
bigger.
man. You can't beat it.
I feel like there's a way to start talking about the ayuntamiento in this,
Okay, cool.
right?
This chapter was awesome,
Yeah, this is a good one.
as it needed to be because of
Yeah.
the reveal of space. But like, I feel
Yeah.
like it, you know, the mortal regular author could have made this chapter so that space was the great big thing. But there were so many really cool, like, this makes the whole chapter worth it. Things that happened before that, which made space even
It's
cooler.
a lot of information. This is an interesting set of chapters. I think we're talking about what
10.
specifically here.
I think we're talking about 10 now, the belly of the world.
Oh, I think we're not.
Although
Hold
maybe
on.
we didn't
I don't think
finish
we've
9.
got
I think-
through 9.
I think
don't
we're
we
I think we're
did 9.
officially on 9. I don't think we've gotten through. I don't think we started 9 and then
I think we made
My
one-
pencil is at the beginning of 9.
Huh.
yeah.
Well, shit.
That's okay. 9 and 10 lead into each other pretty well, but
I don't
these
think it has to necessarily be in order.
yeah. These chapters though, they are interesting because they portray Silk coming into contact with that he does not understand, and you get to experience that through his eyes, and you get to see him trying to process things that he does not understand using what he does understand, which is something that Wolfe does really well. And like, you know, if you're getting inside of his head during this, it actually is very like woozy and sort of like overwhelming. Like these chapters, like when he's like experiencing so much that he's never seen before and seeing all of these things, and you're trying to like make sense of it, but he's trying to make sense of it too. Sometimes it's exasperating. Like sometimes with Silk here, you're like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like when he's talking to Mumelta about like how he feels about Mukor and like lying to Mukor. What? That's what makes this so unique is how Gene Wolfe has handled this as a writer. Because there's a lot of what could be considered exposition or explanation in a way, even though it's totally Wolfian and doesn't make a lick of sense ultimately. But there's so much being presented here right now that it's really interesting. It's a really chewy section of this series of books right here.
Yeah, I feel it's interesting how Silk is able to be successful, or how successful he's able to be when I think that he doesn't understand what's going on at all.
By the end of chapter 10, when he gets to space, he like it's suddenly funny because I feel like his Rain Man like fixation on relating everything to the gods suddenly becomes dead on. It's like the most right he's ever been, which is really interesting for converging upon the time of him seeing the thing nobody else knows about space.
Give some specific examples of what
Like
that.
when so when Mamelta says like, oh, I remember the that girl, the one that dances, and Silk is immediately like Molpe, and that's like on one level that's Silk's obsession with relating everything back to his pantheon, but he's absolutely correct in this case. And then when he says Pos must favor you, he's absolutely correct there too. She was like brought, I feel like Mamelta is part of like selected people that are and she's like a technician too, so she's above somebody else on this in the scheme of things.
A quick technical interjection. I'm getting a lot of echo right now.
Somebody's microphone and speaker are very close together. It's not any of us with headphones on.
Telling me. I'll just mute.
Oh, I have headphones on.
Better.
I just moved my speaker and tell me it, and hopefully that.
Talk, Tim.
Sounding good. Test.
I still hear.
No.
I mean, somebody might just have to turn down their volume if they can.
I just turned down a little.
I mean, I have mine like the way I normally have it, which is like way behind my computer, so which and my speakers.
And you're not echoing.
Well, I wouldn't. It wouldn't necessarily.
Wait, testing. Still kind of there.
Yeah.
It's lower now.
It's fine. It's not that bad.
I mean,
that is annoying.
I think it's
Just
better
for
than it
Johan.
was. I think it's better than it was. Yeah, I mean, Johan will tell us if it's like absolutely ridiculous.
Johan.
Good old Johan.
He's our outsider.
Don't blow him up too much.
He says he doesn't mind the echo, so it's clearly there, but it's just man.
I mean, everybody's been dealing with Zoom call quality for bare minimum a year and a half now. That it's just very familiar.
I'll put in the title of the YouTube video that it's Robodub style. Religious
Guys,
music.
I'm in the middle of the second book of Short Sun, and for one, going back to this trips me out really hard. But also, the like print of the book that I'm reading is like so dense. There's like small font in the tiny margins, and then I'm like, oh wow, look at all the room in here. It's like,
It's like the episode of Seinfeld where Kramer adopts a highway and then he makes the 4-lane highway into a 2-lane highway.
And then later on, you see Elaine driving, and she's like, "Ooh, luxurious wide lanes." She's just like slaloming down the road. Oh God, Seinfeld's amazing.
Johan has just said that Green's Jungle is the best in the whole solar cycle.
Wow.
it's pretty fucking wild, I have to say. It's pretty wild book.
Is that the one where the dude's in the hole for a while?
Yeah. I don't.
No, that's the first one. But they might return
By
to
the
hole.
dude, you
I
mean
don't know.
Horn?
No. I mean the vampire aliens in the hole.
I don't feel like there's a way that I can take. Oh, I don't feel like there's a way I can take one of the books of the Short Sun and look at them independent of the other two. Which I want to bring up some business. I've been talking out of school to a couple of people who have or are reading the Short Sun, and I think that after we're done with Long Sun, we need to take a break and make sure that everybody's read all 3 books of Short Sun before we can discuss any point of Short Sun.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have been feeling bad this whole time that even talking about Long Sun without having finishing Short Sun, which is why I'm like trying to bust it out. I've just been reading a lot. But it's like I needed to get through my second whole read of Long Sun before I wanted to touch Short Sun. I felt like you can't just read any of them once and then go to the next one. It doesn't make any sense. You have to get at least twice through each one before you can go to the next one. So I had to get through number 2 of Long before I could go in Short. But now, anyway, whatever. I think in hindsight, like, it makes more sense to have done multiple reads of all of them before you're talking about any of them, really.
Well, that's probably true. I just think it's impossible to talk about
No
the
way.
first moment of Short Sun unless you can also talk about every other moment of the book.
I feel that way about
it's
Long Sun
cool.
and I really feel that way about New Sun. I never understood how anyone could talk about New Sun at all without having like read it twice.
But this one is way worse because it's told completely out of sequence through the entire thing.
Yeah,
that's
the
true.
other two books travel in a straight line, and
Sort of. Well,
Short Sun travels in a cloud. Like,
I mean, that's true, except like Severian is constantly, like, plot-wise, that's sort of true, but he's like dropping off. I mean, he's speaking from a point at the end, so in a sense, it's not really. You know what I mean? Like,
well, even on a surface, like just on a surface level, like yes, that's true that like when you're talking about something in the beginning of New Sun, you're also talking about something at the end of New Sun, but on the surface level, it looks more like a real story than Short Sun.
there is a main character who is moving through a series of events along its causal chain. That's not happening at all in Short Sun.
Yeah.
I don't think there's one protagonist. I don't think the events move according to causality.
You know, I haven't cracked a page in Short Sun, but it sounds wild.
It's the
that's
point of
part
the
of the
whole
reason
thing.
why that's part of the reason why I'm reading it now, because I feel that I feel that way about the other two series anyway. Like, I don't actually think, like, I don't see how you can talk about New Sun. I personally don't see how you can talk about New Sun or Long Sun without having at least read them once, but probably twice. And therefore I knew, without having read any of Short Sun, like, there's no way I'm going to try to talk about it unless I've read the whole thing at least once. So I agree. I mean, I think, whatever. I tried to say that at the beginning of this whole book club. Like,
But it's I do feel like I can talk about these other two books without ruining the rest of the books. There's a way to do that. I do not see any way that I can talk about anything that happens in Short Sun without ruining someone who hasn't read the book's experience of that book.
But to me, it's not even about ruin, or like, I don't know, it's like, I don't know. Anyway, whatever. It doesn't matter. I agree that everyone should read them all.
I think that's a great point, and I'm going to start looking into that and boning up on these books. I honestly have been just going through reading this as we discuss it. Honestly, I was in like a phase last year where I was like reading ahead and got into like the third book, and then I just kind of got distracted by a bunch of other books and shit. But I think that's really good advice, and it's good to hear, you know, your experience of Short Sun, and you know, and Connor, you sharing that this is just like something that you have to get all the way through before you can start talking about it, and I think that's fair. So thanks for letting me know that, and thank you also for putting some effort into, you know, not spoiling it. I know these books aren't necessarily about plot and spoilers and shit, but I do appreciate it.
But these books are about initiation, you know, and like, I think that you're taking something away from someone if you don't allow them as pristine an experience of these books as possible.
I wish I didn't know anything about these books before I started opening them. This section would have been 100 times cooler.
Yeah.
And it already is cool. But imagine if you didn't know anything about this and then you like started reading it. You'd be like, what the fuck? The fuck
I-
is this?
That's what
When
I
I
said
was
that
trying
at
to-
the time.
When I was trying to find out where to buy Long Sun, I accidentally saw it says they're on a world ship,
Yeah.
and I've never been more angry in my life.
Oh my
Yeah, didn't we
God.
identify that the dust jacket of Mark's copy said it like the first thing?
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
yeah.
I think it's in the promotional of all of this. Yeah.
I
This
kind
one
of
actually doesn't say so.
Yeah, this has like in the dust jacket, it talks about it being a starship. And I'm pretty sure this is a first edition, so
Yeah, an edition I read some years ago. did that.
At the beginning of this whole club, I was trying to tell Emma that she shouldn't be in the club because she hadn't read it before. But not because, like, you shouldn't be allowed to, because, like, it's not, it, like, takes away from your experience of reading it if you have to.
She wasn't the only one who hadn't read the whole thing, though. And then after the first meeting, she read the entire series before the next meeting.
She did.
yeah, which seemed
Really?
like a good omen, you know. And I think at the time we were also saying like, well, kind of everyone has it at a different level, and maybe that's neat, you know. Like at the very beginning, that kind of made sense to me to have like someone who's read it multiple times, someone who's read it a long time ago, somebody who's like just getting it now, like. That made sense at the beginning, but as we get, I think it makes sense to me as we get to the culmination and to Short Sun, that becomes less interesting.
Mhm.
It's just, the thing is, like, I'm in the middle of the second book as well, and anything that I have to say about the book at this point is utterly useless. It's completely worthless. It means fucking nothing. It's not even worth talking about, honestly. Like, any ideas I have aren't even worth even thinking about, to be perfectly honest.
Except I think that we can all say, without any speculation or worrying about being wrong, that Horn sucks.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's
At
garbage.
least as much as Severian. I don't know how Wolfe does it. He makes these protagonists that are so fucking annoying.
I think he's worse
Oh,
than
I think he's just accurate.
He's so bad.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess so.
I feel like Horn is as bad as I am. You know, like Horn, Horn is horrible because he's what I am when I'm being honest with myself.
It's so funny because he's always being like, oh, and then this person keeps telling me how great I am, and then I say, like, I'm not great. You know what I mean? And you're like, yeah, but you're writing about how great this person thinks you. Like,
Yeah. But anyways,
Like, yes,
we
but I
shouldn't talk
know
about
I'm
Short
bad.
Sun until everybody's read all of Short Sun.
I know. I don't think that's a spoiler that Horn sucks.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, it's a
spoiler.
wolf protagonist, so.
So Johan has said a whole bunch of things. One of them that I thought was really interesting was that the 3 Short Sun books have very different narrative devices throughout, and that the New Sun and Long Sun kind of follow the same, he calls it a gag, like the same gag.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it also, I feel like there's a transition in Long Sun in that he is kind of trying to do different genres in each 4 book, but that's totally different than like a narrative device. It's like, you know, a step in that direction maybe. And then he also says Horn is as horrible as he is, and the window we get into him is different than the window we get into Silk. We seek Silk from the eyes of the person who loves him more than anyone else on earth. And then he says Horn sucks and rocks.
Also, and this is not a spoiler, my copy of Short Sun, which is an omnibus that has all 3 in one, has a shitload of typos in it.
Really?
Like, lots of them. Like, lots. I've noticed at least, like, 10 or 12.
Hello?
I don't know. A lot of them. There's a lot of them. There's, like, always a typo.
Well, what the fuck is wrong with Tor?
I
Get
have
off your asses, Tor.
I have the single book editions from Tor. They're like the trade paperbacks. I don't know. I haven't cracked into them yet, so I don't know what the typo situation is.
I don't trust that
So
I would
many
necessarily
typos.
be able to see the typo when I encounter it whilst reading. That's just
I'm
not
very
how I read.
sensitive.
I will.
I'm
It'll-
very sensitive to typos.
I kind of
can
get
we
the
go on?
sense
Can we
from
go on a tangent for a second?
Oh, us
Is
tangent.
that not what we're on?
I just wanted permission before I
yeah,
tried.
are we not currently on a tangent?
So how do we read here? By the letter, by the word, by the sentence, or by the paragraph? Or if you're so insane, by the page?
I don't think I read by anything like that. I think I just read. But my brain is a very like patterny brain. So if there is like a typo is like very jarring to me, and it makes me have to stop.
You read by the letter.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that was like a quiz?
A quiz?
Yeah, like
no,
a
I
BuzzFeed
just
quiz.
wanted to know
Like a
how
personality.
everybody's
Oh,
brains
I was
work.
asking if it was a poll or a quiz. If you were like, you're asking each person's particular.
I'm asking each person's particular style.
Okay.
For me,
I
it
think
really
you read by
varies.
the word.
Like sometimes I'm reading, sometimes I'm skimming, and that's like paragraphs. But sometimes, it depends on the work, and it depends on how invested I am in it.
Yeah.
I read by the sentence.
How is that?
I'm a very sentence-focused writer, so that does tend to be a focal point for me.
I don't understand what you mean.
Okay, I have to concentrate in order to view the words in the sentence. Like, naturally, my mind, the smallest unit of information in the book for my mind to be puzzling with is sentence. I rarely think about word, and I don't notice letters, to the point where if you have a word that has the correct letters in it and they're all rearranged, I won't notice if I'm really reading with abandon.
Could I make
Sometimes
a whole?
if you drop words out, I would not notice.
Can I make a whole sentence
would
of scrambled
be able
words
to-
and you'd get it?
Huh?
How many words in a sentence could I scramble and you'd still know the original meaning?
I have no idea. I haven't really done that many tests. It's just something I've noticed that, like, I will go back, and if somebody's talking about a specific word in the sentence, I'll be like, oh, I didn't know that was there, but I'll know the sentence.
I don't know what that means. I always go back and I
That's
read a
understandable.
sentence like 2 or 3 times every time, no matter what it is, no matter how
Yeah.
like.
I'm a very slow
So is that a
reader.
sentence? Am I reading a sentence then?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that means. I would think so, but I'm not sure. I don't know enough about that behavior.
Sorry, Tim, I interrupted you.
No, you didn't. No, I was kind of like just saying like I don't know if this is what you meant, but I sometimes will have to like reread things, especially with Wolfe or something that I'm trying to pay particularly attention to, like. And it's interesting because I'll try to focus, and I actually think trying to focus sometimes you absorb less when you're reading, if that makes sense. Like ideally you want to get into like a flow where you're just like reading along and just like the information is just coming at you, no problem. But Wolfe is really resistant to that, like because you'll just be reading along and you'll miss a lot.
Yeah, if I don't know. I don't think I'm a very like good reader. So because if I just read along, I don't know what I've just read at all. Like I can't skim. I have to like actually read.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it
Skimming
depends
gets you
also.
into trouble.
It depends also a lot on the style of writing. Like there's certain books that I don't have to reread, but I feel like most often I'm in that same boat where I'm constantly going back to be like, okay, wait a second. Did I really get this? Like, I just realized I kind of missed something here, or maybe I missed something here. I am usually going back, but then there's definitely books where I feel like that rarely happens because of the way it's written.
Yeah, or because you care less. Like sometimes I think Mark, you were kind of getting at that. Like sometimes I'll be reading something like, oh, I don't quite get it. Like I'm reading like a Clive Barker paperback right now from the 80s, and like,
Which one?
like certain points I'm like, wait, does this character have magical powers? But it's like, it's fine. It's just, I don't need to go back and revisit this. Like I'll pick it up.
I feel like the less I care about a thing, the smaller the unit I'm paying attention to is.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I'm reading a form, that's when I look at each letter.
Small unit.
Yeah. But like the more excited I am about a thing, the more I think of each. The larger the units get.
Which Clive Barker book? Yeah,
Damnation Game.
Yeah.
I haven't read.
It's all right.
It's no great and secret show.
The only
Oh,
the only
I've read
Clive
that.
Barker like novel I've read is the Magica, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really long.
It's 2 books long, right?
The version I have is just like a single volume hardback.
Oh, I feel like I see that
What do
in
you guys
2
think
volumes.
about this?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
There he is.
What's that thing's name?
Misha.
Baby Quimby.
Oh, like Barton?
Here's the magic I have. It's enormous. It's
I-
like 824 pages.
I think I might have started that book and I thought that the foreword was so amazing and I was like, this resonates with me so hard. This is so cool. I can't wait to read this. And then it started and it was like, kind of like there's a guy in a cab, but he's...
How about this one?
Who's that name?
Freddy.
Freddy?
Ready?
Look at this belly.
That's pretty good.
High quality.
I love them.
Sorry,
I
that's
visited
it.
them once when they were really, really little.
They were like a quarter of the size when you saw them.
They were like this big. And they didn't even know they were cats. And they were like... And I taught them how to play with a thing that was wiggling.
You did. You really got them. Jordan brought over a shitload of toys. Jordan just brought all the toys that her cats didn't like, and these cats loved all of them.
Awesome.
They're licking each other now.
Oh.
I just
They're
realized
cats
that
now. Tiny cats.
chapter 9 and chapter 10 both start with Ak and Chenille, and they haven't, like, doing pretty much the exact same thing. Like,
Drinking?
they're in the same place. They're, like, at the shrine with Oreb telling them what's up and them not getting it. And, like...
That's an interesting part of these books, where like every animal we meet talks, and every person doesn't realize that they're straight up talking and not just parroting them. Like every
Right.
single one.
That is, like, how animals and people in our world interact.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, people are like, that thing, what does he want? I don't know. And it's like, if you fucking spend any time with the animal, it's fucking clear what they want.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm not some fucking Chomskyite about language.
And clearly language
fucking
comes
shit.
later than communication. And that communication, like, doesn't require language. And then, in fact, like, language is it's like a genre of communication and not like the fucking origin of it.
Well, there's a lot of work done that on the idea that we sang before we spoke and hummed before we sang, and that was how communication started.
I like that a lot.
In Homo heidelbergensis, they were the first anemones that could enable speech, but they didn't have the ability to use consonants.
We heard there's a new closest relative in the
Oh.
Dragon Man or whatever.
family.
The jawless thing?
It's Dragon Man is what they're calling it.
Is it the thing that has no jaw? Like, it has
No,
teeth or
it's got-
something, but no
I think
jaw?
it's got a draw. It's like it seems kind of like Neanderthals, but like apparently slightly closer to Homo sapiens.
The Denisovans, are we talking about?
No, this is like a pretty new thing. They like found
Cool.
a new skull or something.
I'll check it out. There's a thing that I've been seeing people talking about a lot lately, the Denisovans, which is a new kind of person from Siberia that we only know about because of a couple of jawbones, which is why I was trying to connect you two
Oh.
guys.
I thought I saw
Chapter
some...
9. Oh, sorry, I was just going to say we also get a discussion of like the way that language is different among the classes in chapter 9. Like,
Oh, that part's awesome.
yeah, which you could kind of feel like Wolfe is just kind of like riffing here on a subject that he's interested in, but you get to see Silk kind of putting this together. It's on 447 if anyone's looking along, but it's where he's kind of like troubled by the way that other people in town don't talk like he does. He has like fancy talk. But he deduces here that that they have less room to be imprecise. They have less room for mistakes in language. Clarity is like of the utmost importance and perhaps even essential for your life.
Which they are we talking about?
The townsfolk of Viron, like people in the quarter, like Auk or
Peasants.
the butcher, yeah, like the regular ass people that Silk. So Silk defines himself as kind of a different type of person, and then I forget what conclusions he draws from this. I imagine it's something about the role that he plays in society. That it's his job to communicate the ideas of the higher classes to the lower classes, which is interesting.
And vice
He
versa.
himself is lower class, technically speaking, in terms of how much money he has.
How much money he has.
Right. So he doesn't. He has.
I don't think he was born that way necessarily.
No.
I think he was supposed to have money, and I forget what, but he did something that switched his path while
Was he like
in
switched
Skull.
at birth or something? Yeah.
I mean, he was bought and paid for as a clone, but I feel like he was being trained to be one thing. And I'm sorry, I can't remember the details of why I think this. And
Was it the story about how all of the boys, they take, if you become an augur, it's because you are like called to get on this boat on this specific day, and like some people don't want to go, but they're. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
What is the story? He already told it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. Oh man, it was something about. I don't remember what it was. Like one of the gods and hearing their call, and it was. I forget. I'm just saying the things you've already said.
Is it Incus that tells that story?
No, I think it's Silk, or maybe it's Incus.
Maybe.
Because Incus talks a lot about like
I think it maybe is Incus.
becoming an augur.
Does he talk about it with was this the last reading?
Pretty recent. And it's some story that sounds kind of dubious to the point where you're like, is this like folklore or is it real? But yeah, it's like a boat of babies is delivered.
It's a metaphor.
No, they're like teens, right? They're like 10 or something. And he was going to do something else, but then he got on the boat, and people didn't like it. I don't remember. I kind of remember it.
Am I wrong in remembering that Silk is the tallest boy in his like priest class?
No, he's. I'm pretty sure that he's tall.
I think they say he's the tallest in his class.
Yeah.
They definitely set up that he's set apart from everyone else somehow. Like he's popular or blonde or something. But he's not that smart.
Whoa,
he's not that smart, but he's cool.
Johan says that Silk is the tallest person ever, possibly.
Wow.
Which I that tracks with me.
I feel like I remember Auk being taller or something of the
I think
like.
he does mention other people who are taller than him.
Wolfe, this makes me think of Ryan a lot. Wolfe definitely has Ryan's same thing about height, for sure.
Well, I think Wolfe would track it directly to money at least in New Sun and in this one. That it's explicit in New Sun, but I feel like it's a little here too. That it would make sense that Silk was born into money, and then he kind of goes another way, and that's why he's the tallest dude there.
he doesn't have a lot of money, but he has enough that he had this like special little toy that he's like, not everyone got to get a cool little toy like this, but look at me, I got this cool little toy. So he's not like, I don't think they're wealthy, but like I think they're probably like fine.
Yeah, Johan said he was joking about the Silk being the tallest person ever. He was just, it was coming from how much they mention him being tall. And then he says,
Right.
I think Silk is tall because he's like a demigod. He's like a Nephilim.
Well,
He has Superman DNA.
I definitely think that Wolfe writes people who he talks about that they are tall often. Like main characters are going to be tall. And it also makes me real interested in Horn, because Horn is someone that when he is writing is very tall, and when other people are writing, he is not. And I think that's interesting. And what does it mean? And it makes me wonder how tall everybody else whose head we've been inside really is.
And that their current like internet dating discourse about people talking about their heights.
Oh yeah, which is such a weird, interesting conversation to me, especially being a tall man who's friends with Adam Endris.
Wait, I missed Mark. Sorry, yeah, Mark, I missed what you said.
Oh, isn't there like a current internet discourse or like internet dating discourse where people, specifically men, lie about their height?
Yeah.
I mean,
Like-
also there was the guy who directed Suicide Squad 2 recently tweeted out, I hate when male actors lie about their height on their resume because it messes up how I'm going to frame shots and whatnot. And then some other actor was like, fuck you, dude. It's none of your fucking business, kind of thing. And he's like, no, it's the physics of it. I need to know how to frame the shot. If you're going to stand next to someone who's shorter than you, I need to know that. I need to know the math.
Yeah, it's like if you're an actor, bitch, you're an object. Like you are an object. That is a big fucking part of your job. You are a talking
is.
object.
Body in
Physical
space.
attributes are key.
It seems like models are better at understanding that than actors, and that kind of makes sense. That really
Yeah.
makes a lot.
It's I really the height discourse, like the dating height discourse. I'm really excited because I mean it's shockingly mean, which is really entertaining to see strangers be shockingly mean about something where you're like, whoa, you're going there, huh? But I've seen a lot of I've actually like fell into a TikTok hole with like dating advice, and it is a fucking freak show. The like people that do dating advice TikToks, it is really entertaining in like a horrifying like way.
There's
Is
this.
it like, here's my advice: don't date short people.
Yes.
There's like there's that one I think I put in our IG group thread where it was like this girl like, here's a trick that you can do. Get your measure your like highest set of heels, and then like when you go out on a date, you got to stand next to this guy, and then you can evaluate whether like how many inches he's added to his height. And it's like, that's really funny. But there's also, I don't know, there's like all kinds of stuff that's like, yo, if you're like, I saw one today that was amazing. It was like, there's a whole genre of like, if you withhold sex from your man, it is your fault when he cheats on you. Like there's a lot of those. And then,
There's a lot of that going
Yeah,
on
and
for a
then-
long time. That predates TikTok for sure.
oh yeah, but it's interesting to see like younger generation like picking up that and running with it on TikTok. Like, and then the great one I saw today was like a really long one. I guess it was like the full 60 seconds that they can do. And there's this dude like sitting on his couch like this, and he's like breaking down how like if your girl has a lot of male friendships that like she maintains during your relationship, she does not value you. And he was like, this is like a young dude who was like dead serious, like he was dropping like this real science. And he wasn't like, you know, there was nothing Amish or like hickish or anything about him. Like he seemed to be a very contemporary young man. Like in all other respects, he would be, you know, like not conspicuous on TikTok. And the way he was breaking this down was like, it was so insane. It was parody level, but totally serious.
Yeah.
Like this
That's
dude.
such a like boomer sentiment. Like, it's so weird. You guys know Adam Fisher?
Yeah.
He does
Do
like
I?
whatever. He's a friend of Kenny's and mine. But like
I was at his house. the other day.
we do a lot of I work with him some, and we're also just good friends, and I've been helping him work on his house, and we went to go pick up he asked me one day to help him go pick up this like stone countertop from somebody's house in like Catonsville. They had like pulled it out of there. It was like a really nice fancy thing that they had pulled out of their house. And we went to pick it up, and this woman was like, "You guys aren't married?" And it was just like, "No." And it was like she kept asking. It's like, "No, we're just friends." Like, you know, it's like, oh, anytime. It's like this weird old style where like you're the only person it's like if you get along with someone who's not your same gender, it's like the only reality of that is you have to like marry that person.
Yeah.
It's like so fucking weird. Like I don't understand that at all. And Adam and I had gone out the night before and had a beer, and it was like he invited me and Kenny didn't feel like going out, and I went out with Adam and had a beer, and I was thinking about like if that woman told her husband that like she was gonna go have a beer with some dude, it would be like a marriage ruining event or whatever.
Right.
And I was just thinking about how weird it is. I mean, we had a whole chat on the ride home about how weird it is that like people aren't allowed. I mean, you're not really allowed to have friends at all, but if you do, it's like I'm going out for girls' night, or like I'm going out with the boys or whatever. But it's like so fucking weird to me that you can't just like be friends with whoever.
State of
Especially
So
in
weird.
this world where gender is our definition of gender is changing
Well,
so much.
That's
you know?
not true for
We're
those
like
people.
5%
That's not
Sure.
true for those
We're on
people, though.
the computer. But also, here's the other thing: is that adults don't have friends. So you talking to anyone who isn't your husband or
Right.
a family member is fucking insane.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
And
saying.
if you don't
like,
have a family, you're untouchable.
it was just so weird. She just kept being like, "Why aren't you guys? You're not even like a couple."
When
It's
What if he told her
and
you
she
weren't
just
married?
kept asking. Like she asked it like a bunch of times. She just like kept asking.
like you
Like,
might have
no,
forgotten.
we just are. We're friends. Like we both date other people, actually.
That makes
When I
me
first-
think that woman, like anytime she's around a man that's not her husband, that like she doesn't instantly hate, that she's like, I guess we might fuck if like this, if I'm not careful, I might bone this dude.
So
When I
weird.
first started really being friends with Dina, and we would go to McDonald's all the time, and I if I was standing in front of her in line, I would order a lot of food because I was hungry. But the person would always assume that I was ordering for her too, and would not take her order. She would have to be like, "I want some food too," and like get them to like. They just assumed that I ordered for her, which I thought was a crazy thing that dovetails into this conversation. Anyway.
It must happen to a cashier like several times a day. You know what I mean? Like, you're not looking at the fucking queues. The person is standing there, because this happens to me too. You're standing there at the fucking cash register making eye contact with the person, and you're just staring at each other like fucking idiots. It's like
Yeah.
so insane. You're
Yo,
not even looking at reality. It doesn't make, it's like,
yo, Jordan, Dina, also both short.
You think if Jordan is short?
I'm not short. I'm
How tall are
5'5",
you?
As
which
a-
is average. Perfectly average.
As a short person, I'm gonna go ahead and say Jordan is not short.
Not
Yeah, I
short.
don't think of Jordan.
Jordan is like significantly taller than me.
I mean, I guess I'm
And
up-
I'm actually not. I'm on the short end of average. I think I'm not actually
Yeah.
that short.
I wouldn't
I mean,
even-
I'm
I
short,
wouldn't
but
even
I'm
say
not like
short.
astronomically short.
astronomically short.
I feel like this is a thing, like, I don't know, like, at a different altitude, it's harder to distinguish what's going on, you know, like half a foot away.
I like to make the
Imagine
joke that
what-
under 6
imagine
feet,
what-
everybody seems the same size to me.
Well, yeah, everyone's tall to me.
Yeah.
I'm short
And I also
because
don't like other tall people.
There you have
I'm
it.
perfectly average height.
I have the personality of a short guy because my dad is way bigger than me. And then also when I was in like middle school and high school, I was friends with older kids who were also happened to be like above average height. And so almost always been like the shortest dude. Like up until I guess after college or something, or around sometime in college, it was like the first time I wasn't the shortest dude in the crew.
Right.
You're relatively tall.
I mean that's what I hear, but I like
Yeah.
in my head and I think this
How
comes
tall
out.
are you?
6'2".
That's
That's
above average.
That is far above average.
yeah.
I think of you as a tall person.
I know a lot of people, I guess, that are kind of like up. I mean, Connor's way taller than me, and that's the person that I feel like I'm around a lot.
I
so.
think average dude
I am an
height
outlier.
is like. I think average male height is like 5'8" or 5'9".
yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Maybe. Like
Yeah.
it's not that. It's not that tall. Like you're very tall.
And Connor's really tall, but he also slumps down like 4 inches, so you don't
do.
notice as much.
I feel like the same thing happens like inflation with boob size too. That like there's times where I feel like people's definition of what big boobs are is like so wildly different that it's funny.
No, I'm talking about statistics. The average male height in the United States above the age of 20 years old is 5'9",
There you go.
which is 5 inches shorter than you.
Yeah, you're doing all right.
I still feel though that like for a tall guy, I'm short.
No,
That's
I think
not
you hit the
true.
nail on the head when you
If
said
you're
that your
over
dad, you
6
just never
foot-
got taller than your
no.
dad.
Yeah. Your dad looms large in your
I'm
memory.
here to tell you this. I'm here to tell you this. 5'11", 6 foot, still a tall person. You're taller. You're like a tall. You're like a tall fucking
Yeah.
person.
My little sister is a
Average
little bit
height for
taller than me.
Average female height. Jordan is taller than the average female height,
Ooh, do me.
which is 5'4".
5'4". Good God, that's definitely shorter than I thought.
That's
it was.
shorter than I would have thought.
I'm 5'2". I'm saying like I'm 5'2". That's not that short for a woman.
Wait,
I
so
wanna
what
say
is that short for a woman?
physical
4'11"?
Your presence.
My
on your
whole
period
mom's side of the family, all my aunts, my sister, my mom, all those people are like 4'10",
That's
4'9".
That is short.
4'11".
Under 5 feet, definitely short.
I think
I know,
4'11" and
but
under
I'm
is
saying
shorter than short.
In my family, I'm tall.
The
You
shortest
have the
person in the
personality of a
previous
tall person.
generation of my family is like 5'10", so her nickname is Tyke,
That's
like
hilarious.
little Tyke.
Wow. I'm the tallest person in my family, but also when I was growing up, my best friend is like 6'2", and so I was always next to him. And now that I don't know, I've realized that I am like sort of tall as an adult, being around people who aren't just all giants, except for Ryan and Connor. So
When I see my aunts, I hug down.
Oh.
That's crazy.
That's the only
Your
time. I mean,
personality has so
that's-
much to do with your size, though. Like I think that's the main. I think that counts more than your actual body is your personality.
Hmm.
I've been told this before.
Yeah.
Madison assumes that everybody is her same height, and so she's constantly surprised when her friends are taller than her.
That makes sense with her personality too, I feel like.
There's been so many people who have made clothes for me, who are small girls who made the clothes for them and are astonished when I can't wear them at all. And
That's very
the
funny.
thing that they mess up the most is the bore of sleeves. I think it's crazy that like
They
I'll
not
try to put
measure
on a
you?
shirt and like I can't fit my arm down it.
Yeah, they can't be that good at making clothes.
Yeah, Connor, this is a story about people who don't know what they're.
Not
Yeah,
about how
definitely.
tall you are.
Definitely. It's a story about people who like don't want to use measurements when they're making clothes and stuff like that.
A vital component to making clothes.
Someone who
Yeah.
is not interested in making clothes at all.
Well, but, I mean, the person who's made the clothes for me the most is Dina, who was always making a suit where I was conjoined with another, like 2 people had to wear the suit.
Yeah.
Things like that, you know. So
Right,
Yeah.
not interested in making clothes at all.
right, not interested in making clothes. They're sculptures.
Yeah, totally different.
Anyway, I'm pleased that we got to go on this height tangent. Because it is oddly important in these Wolfe books. which is maybe my privilege talking.
It is. And
Is that something that anybody's seen extended to other Wolfe works? Like, I haven't read, like, Latro and the Mist, or...
I don't feel like that it's as prevalent in those books, just from my recollection of the things that I read. I don't feel like there's other books that are so obsessed with height.
If it were, that would be weird.
But I also feel like those other books are not written from a first-person perspective.
How tall was Jean?
That's a good
I
question.
wonder if we can find out.
A friend of mine, when I was in the 8th grade, a person asked how tall my dad was. This is 1 year after he died, and my friend AJ, who had not acknowledged it up until that point, he died. My dad died over the summer, and AJ had not gone to the funeral. He was my best friend. He had not gone to the funeral, or it just gave me nothing. He said nothing about it. This girl asked me how tall my dad was, and AJ said, he's 6 feet, 6 feet under.
Ooh.
And I thought about that when we're asking how tall Jean is right now.
That's someone who has an uncomfortable relationship with death.
Yeah, AJ was not very good at emotions.
Whoa, did you guys know that Gene Wolfe's middle name was Rodman?
No?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
He's a Taurus.
Do you think he's related to Dennis Rodman? I do.
I mean, yeah, I want to.
Must be.
I feel like it makes so much sense. I'm no astrologer, but I feel like it makes a lot of sense that he's a Taurus.
It says that his net worth, these sites are always like totally pulling numbers out of their ass, these like net worth sites.
Yeah.
The one they pulled out of their ass on the site I clicked was $700,000. That seems low to me.
Really?
That sounds
Yes.
about right to me.
$700,000 is a lot of money.
And that, I mean, net worth includes all of your assets, right? Like the house you own or whatever, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He's just a writer, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
He's not
Oh,
famous.
yeah.
Nobody's heard of him.
I don't think he was making much money for the last 20, or I think between like the 90s and the 2010 maybe, I feel like Wolfe slipped into like a pretty deep obscurity.
And he also
Like for example, like you were
he had
talking
a
about
regular
like
job,
like
you know?
yeah, right.
Well, he
But,
quit
like,
his regular job at a certain point.
The short
I believe he
Sun books
retired.
are a good
Yeah.
indication of that. Like, you know, like there's tons of typos. The covers aren't like don't inspire too much confidence. You know, like I don't feel like people were really reading books like Short Sun. I imagine it was like a glorified small press distribution. I
Yeah,
don't know
like
who actually put it
it's
out.
only like Dean Koontz and stuff, and Stephen King or somebody, you know,
Zadie Smith.
really who is like making money.
yeah, I feel like most of your science fiction fantasy writers are probably like eking out a pretty middle class existence. You know, it's not.
I doubt Wolfe made much money at all.
Yeah.
From
When
his
I
writing.
job shadowed a sci-fi writer for my senior project, the first thing he told me is, I recommend becoming a bus driver because then you have time to do your writing. And you have to do something because you're not going to make money doing this.
Yo, I recommend being the night shift receptionist at a condo building. I have written so much since I got hired there.
Good.
I'd write a lot in office jobs when I had them.
It depends on the office job.
You have office jobs a lot different than I have office jobs, I think.
Yeah.
Like you have an office job. First off, I kind of wouldn't classify what you do an office job. You're a tech guy, which
Right.
means you have actual things to do.
Yeah, you got to get up off your ass.
You have a job.
Yeah.
I'm less of a tech guy than I used to be, though. So
Congratulations.
There is more ass time,
That's how you know you
especially
made it.
during work from home. That's been
Nice
But
to have
like
a
a
book.
filing clerk is a different kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like partially because you have actual technical things that you are doing, I feel like you can take pride and put forth an effort in your job way easier than a filing clerk could.
true.
It's hard to be passionate about filing, though it's very funny when it happens in cartoons.
And in being John Malkovich,
Right.
Yeah, that's funny too.
he's like a master
Because it doesn't
filer.
happen in real life.
a master filer because he's got puppeteer.
Yeah,
hmm
yeah. They actually like show him like doing it. He's like,
How could you misfile something?
oh, you can misfile things.
I mean, if you got a bunch of files,
But you just have to put it in alphabetical order.
not
That's
all filing is
All
alphabetical.
you have
Yeah.
to do.
It happens so much. It happens so much.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
It's so
No.
easy.
It happens
Because it's not always
That's part of the
clear where
problem.
to file it.
Well,
It's
all you,
so easy. So it's very easy to not think about what you're doing because it's so easy that
Who?
your mind is going to wander.
who would misfile something? Who misfiled something?
All right, I'm going to give you 1,000 things to file for 6 months every half day, and we'll see how good of a job you do.
But it couldn't be easier. I mean, A, B, C, D,
No.
E,
Oh, I see.
F,
I
G,
see. This is a
H,
quote.
I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. That's all you have to do.
Have you ever
That's
seen
true.
Vampire's Kiss?
Yeah, I just did a whole scene from Vampires.
I didn't realize until we got to the alphabet.
That's my audition scene. Every time I want to be in a play, I do that.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, one time when I had to do two,
A, B, C, D.
one time I had to do two, and the other one was Beavis's speech from Beavis and Butthead Do America on the bus about how they're never going to get laid.
That's awesome.
Nice.
I didn't
I
do it in the
remember-
Beavis voice. I did it in my own voice.
I did a speech from Ferris Bueller's Day Off for an audition for high school, and the teacher pulled me inside and said, "We foolishly picked this play because we wanted to put you in it, but I want to let you know that if you ever audition for something like that in the real world with something from a movie that you're just doing an impression of somebody, like if you ever do that again, you won't get the part." Which
That's
I thought
bad.
was
Oh.
bad.
Well, but you just have to do a movie they haven't seen and then put your own spin on it. I did when I auditioned
Well,
for...
this was a teacher,
Yeah.
so I think that he was like
Yeah.
telling me he thought that I half-assed through the audition because I knew that I would get the part.
Oh,
and he was
okay.
right.
Mm-hmm.
He's
You
just
know,
being a
he was
teacher.
right.
I did one of Sir what's his fucking name? The guy who played Gandhi, Sir Ben Kingsley. I did one of his speeches from Sexy Beast to audition for Cook, Thief, Wife, Lover, and it was awesome because Emily, the director, at one point like totally flinched, like it seemed that she felt in danger, and it was one of my favorite. I mean, that was definitely the best audition I ever did.
She does feel like she's in danger.
Well, I was going to take credit for it, and I still do for that moment.
Oh no, I mean that was a great choice. I think that you played to your audience wonderfully.
I got the part. So,
Yeah, I remember.
is Hammerstone? Did we find out from Imelda that Hammerstone's not an individual, but like a model, and that there's lots of Hammerstones?
Huh? Did we find that out?
At one point, she says
I don't remember that.
before they encounter the dead soldier in chapter 10, but like before they get to it. But I think after they first heard the monitor moaning, she says, "Is that a Hammerstone?" And it's like a lowercase Hammerstone.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
He talks about him. What I thought that was is that he talks about Hammerstone earlier, and she wouldn't see that as a name because that's not a naming convention where she's from. So she's like, "Is that a Hammerstone?"
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
the Wendy bird.
So I was, for a second I was thinking like, oh, it's like the Ford Hammerstone, or like the Black and Decker Hammerstone, who's
Or
like,
prefect.
oh, you want a real talkative soldier? We got the
Yeah,
Hammerstone.
that's an interesting idea though, because like why not? You know? Like why wouldn't
You
like
just described
everyone
half
at his
of
level
Wolfe's
for
criticism.
his like division be the Hammerstone? You know?
Yeah.
Why not?
It's got to be crazy for Mamelta throughout all of this. Like Mamelta just came back to life, and then she's instantly possessed, right, by Mukor, and then now she's escorting someone who doesn't know anything about anything to the spaceship. But she's probably realizing like this isn't exactly what I was prepared for. But
Right, she thinks she's still on Earth, maybe, or she thinks
it seems like
at
she's
some points,
maybe. I mean, it seems I don't know. Melta's cute, like
because she's
really
like, "Oh, we're
mysterious.
going to the Lode Star. What was it?
Yeah, maybe that's where it is. Like the Logan
like,
ship or Logan Star or something.
Logan
like that.
Stone?
The Logan Star. Wait, she like we're going, like she seems confused. That's when she's still confused. Like, oh, we're going to the world.
It's yeah.
The Star Crosser.
Did she say that takes us to the
Someone
world?
calls it a star. Someone says Star Crosser.
Mark, what are you trying to communicate? I feel like
Up my guess.
there's something going on there.
He's got tools.
I'm the Hammerstone model. It's the-
I need to just look at the book.
Yeah, look at the book.
Johan says he thinks robot soldiers must be basically all the same, but they do have individualized names. And to
They
me,
have individual traits.
Yeah, I don't think that they're basically all the same.
I would.
Well, over time, they become different because they leave and do stuff, but then they might get new parts from someone else, you know? So they do become different, but they might start out similar.
Yeah, I could see the name actually making them differentiate because they like think that would like cause them to think of themselves as their own thing.
Well, but chems aren't mass produced. Chems are artisanal products that are made specifically by two chems that are the only two chems that can make that thing. So I kind of don't think that they are.
But
is
I
that
don't
the
know
case?
what the mass-produced soldiers that are under, because he said that they've been stockpiling them for like decades.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
and
also there's a whole thing about when they're in the Talus factory or whatever shop later on in the other book. The guy's talking about how they all have different personalities. Like, you make them the same, and then the way it's like having a baby, like you make them all the same, but then like the way they come out is gonna be different. Like, they're not gonna have, because also Hammerstone talks about AI. He does that whole AI speech. So he's saying like, you have experiences, you learn from experiences, like your system updates.
Mm-hmm.
So like inherently, even if they all started out the same or whatever, they're gonna have distinct personalities. Like, they're not gonna be all the same thing.
Johan says, I assumed that all the chems who were around were chems who were built, and then the reproduction by pairing thing was a different thing. That's also the conception I was under, and partly I feel like...
I think that's true.
Yeah, like
I think that I don't. It's been 900 years.
You
and
think...
people have been stockpiling them. I think that there was a group that was put on board the world that was produced differently, but for 900 years they've been making more robots this way.
Yeah, that's what I meant by stockpiling.
Yeah.
Someone, I can't remember, someone was talking about before where they were, no, I think it was Hammerstone, or whoever was telling Silk all the background information, where he was like, yeah, that before the world took off, they had been creating and stockpiling the soldiers for a while, because it took them a long time to make them.
It also seems like that was maybe like secret new military technology, because when Silk takes the face off of the wounded soldier in chapter 10, Mamelta is shocked and goes like, oh, that's a robot? And she says the word robot, which makes me think when she left Earth, chems weren't a thing that like normal people knew about.
Or they just weren't that much. They looked more robot-like.
Yeah, like, all of this other stuff is probably happening without telling everyone on Earth, right? Like, Typhon was doing this shit, but it wasn't necessarily like, and look at our new soldier chem.
Yeah, like Bezos isn't like, hey, this is, he's not going to tell us everything that they're planning.
And like, Mamelta didn't volunteer. They were like, you're coming with us,
Typhon was a tyrant.
Yeah.
Like Bezos.
Yeah.
And Musk. Musk is like really open about it too, which I guess like
He's South African.
Those Bezos.
It's just normal to him.
yeah. I feel like Bezos is a little more embarrassed to be like about exactly how tyrannical he is, and he tries to like wear a leather jacket and and stuff, and like I think he's more I think you get under his skin more by like hitting him about it, whereas I think Musk would be like flattered that you're like you're a fucking tyrant.
Oh man, my podcast is doing a part make series on Musk right now. It's really fucking interesting, like about his backstory and like all this shit. But Musk's entire thing is like image and PR. Like Musk's whole thing is about him. Like the whole fucking thing. Like it's not about literally any other thing. Like it's entirely about him. And Bezos, I think, is not. It's about whatever he's doing. He's doing what he's doing, and he doesn't mind being the richest dude or whatever. But it's not like. And I'm sure he's a supreme asshole or whatever, but it's not like that's not what his project is about. But Musk's like project is about Musk and the image of Musk, like point blank, period. Like that is his whole fucking thing.
Musk is in
There's
Iron
a lot
Man
of really
2.
interesting
Bezos
stories.
is in no movies.
Really yeah.
What podcast is it?
True Anon,
Oh, okay.
which I recommend. Very good
Yeah, everybody's
content.
liking it.
Their personalities are really annoying when you first start listening to it, but
That's every.
they have very
podcast.
good content.
Every podcast.
It's true. I'm just.
You have to
I just feel the need to preface.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
I
interesting.
appreciate it.
Ann and I were talking about how neither of us really understand how to get into podcasts last night. And if they're all start out annoying, that
Yes.
must be the answer.
You gotta break through. You gotta break through.
At
If
least
it's like
one
that
episode.
you have to break through until you're because it's like hanging out with people
That talk a lot.
It's like hanging out with people. So like because it's just like chatty. So it's like if it's not a personality that you're attracted to that you would like meet at the bar and want to hang out with, you have to like get past that so that you can like just listen to what they're saying.
You need to like listen to a couple, and then you'll find one that you find like, wow, I don't understand why I'm listening to these annoying people, but for some reason I'm going to listen to another one.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was this one podcast with like just the most obnoxious people, but it was like a series about Princess Diana, and it was actually like really good. The stuff they were talking about was really good, so I like got into it, and then I listened to a bunch more of their episodes, even though I was like, I would never, ever talk to this person, and they wouldn't talk to me.
Yeah. But both of those people on that podcast are like, when you first listen to it, they sound like dumb, but they're both insanely smart. Like really well read and like really well researched. They like research everything like a lot.
Brace is really
explain
funny.
things. They're really good at synthesizing whole things like word tree. It's good. They're good. I highly recommend. But their Musk series is like very good. I mean, it's really.
Musk has so many
I think
kids.
it's worth hearing.
Like, what did they go into Musk's
Yeah.
kids at all?
He has a lot of kids.
Do they talk about what they're
Yeah.
like? Oh wow,
He has
I
a
really
lot
want to
of
hear that. He has a bunch of kids, and a bunch of them are old.
No. Yeah, because he had like 5 kids, I think, with his first wife.
Yeah, and some of them are
Which
like
was like
old enough to
the
be
90s.
Grimes fans.
You
Yeah, because
I-
they were like, it was like he was married to that woman in like the 90s.
Does
It's-
Grimes have fans? Does Grimes make music anymore?
She did once.
That's a
Poor
good question.
Grimes.
She's got a
when
raft
she
full of dead
toured with
chickens. One of Musk's like kids surely has got to be a Prince Harry. There's got to be one in the bunch. Like, when is that kid gonna spread his wings and fly?
Who knows? Yeah. Who knows what is going on there? But anyway, yeah, like it's like when he, yeah. Anyway, but it's all just about his his own image.
Oh man.
That's like the whole thing.
Elon Musk.
And Johan pointed out that when we started saying Musk, he was like, "Oh, the bad guy who hawks in this book."
Yeah, it is weird that it is weird.
He has the name of a very evil guy from this great book.
Yeah.
It makes it so that I wish that Bezos' name was Bezor, because that would fit into the naming conventions of this book.
What's a Bezor?
It's a stone. Can I make this up, or does anybody know have a real solid definition of what a Bezor is?
I mean,
Sounds like
it's like a stone that forms in the stomach of a goat, right?
I thought that they ate it and it passed through them or something like that.
I don't know.
Whoa.
We're talking about Bezors.
Yes. What are they?
I don't know. I just knew what you were talking about. It's something that it helps them digest, right?
Yeah, I
Is it
think
something that forms inside or something they eat? I don't know.
That is
It's some animal product.
That's
that
really
would fit into the
perfect.
naming
Oh,
conventions.
maybe it's the congealed mass that they can't digest that gets.
I'm on the internet. I'll just fucking look it up.
That is, I feel like, really good for Bezos too, because it has an element of mineral, which is like Robot Man, but it's actually a part of like a disgusting animal that it's in the digestive process, like the most disgusting part of a disgusting animal.
Are we talking about what everybody's long son name would be?
Yeah, well,
Well, we've only talked about Bezos so far, but we could go along with everybody else.
Musk is already a guy, but
That's how the conversation got started.
oh,
Yeah.
I was getting water.
I want a list of all the worms. Where are they?
The worms, like
Yeah.
Bezos and Musk.
Oh no, I was gonna say for Zuckerberg, he should be like a worm that starts with Z, but I need an alphabetical list of worms to figure
Oh,
it out.
because he's a worm.
Yeah, he like that one picture
What
of
is-
him.
Is there a word for the stuff that worms shit out? That is like dirt.
I think it's just topsoil, right?
That's an animal product, right?
All the villains.
Yeah, it's just mucus and urine.
Is a Bezor's mucus and urine?
No, that's what the excreta of worms are. Bezor are undigestible organic compounds that form in the gastrointestinal tract, form a mass. And then there's also pseudo-Bezors, which are inorganic masses.
So like something they ate.
Right. If it's an actual rock, it's a pseudo-Bezor.
Okay.
If it's a deposit formed by grass, then it's a Bezor.
Like beaks and hooves and stuff.
Yeah.
Bones.
Johan is going off over here. He's like, what about Jean? Is Jean a unisex Viennese name?
Oh yeah, I've read about this. Gene Wolfe talks about this, that like Gene Wolfe totally follows the conventions of this book.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that is cool. He also says worm shit could just be a really low class Viennese name. And if he ever has twin boys, he's going to name them Mucus and Urine.
Oh boy, that's great.
Oh crap.
Great
And
names.
and he says that Gene Wolfe's wife was Rosemary Wolfe.
Oh yeah, the thing that I read about where Gene's talking about his name, he mentions that too. Yeah,
That's so cool.
exactly.
That's fucking awesome.
I love it.
Oh my god. It's like the fucking rewards with this dude never end.
Yeah.
He's like really just a fucking fountain, like a gift that keeps on giving. Like,
Yeah, every piece fits together so amazingly well.
like every
Every piece fits
effort.
together so well that when you find out how it fits, you don't understand how well it fits yet.
Oh, what a dude. I stan.
Clearly, we all stand.
I don't like can't even be like embarrassed about it.
We have no choice but to stand forever.
Yeah, this is the one. This is my guy that I would like. I just would debase myself to any extent, like happily, because he gives me like every piece of effort I make is rewarded. Like no effort goes unrewarded with him. Well, we have gotten hardly at all into chapter 9, which y'all demanded we did.
But we've all blown each other's minds already. So what's more important?
What is more important?
I guess I have some underlining in my chapter.
I mean, there's a lot to talk about in 9. There's, that's an understatement.
Like
Like,
what?
there's,
For example,
for example, Mamelta. All
That's
right.
okay.
Let's wait. Let's slow down and talk about. Wait, before we get to Mamelta, let's talk about Mukor. What is Mukor doing? Right, like Mukor is flying around through these like frozen people, and is she murdering them in order to help them not wake up?
I think she's looking for Silk.
Yeah, I don't think
So-
she's murdering them on purpose. I just think she's like a mischievous kid that doesn't care about the
Let
consequences.
me lay
of
down
her
my case here.
action.
So people are like disintegrating, right?
Yeah.
Inside of their things. And we don't really know that it's Mukor doing it in the first place. Like Mukor never says that I'm doing this. That's just an
Yes, she
idea
does.
Silk has. Does she? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
They walk past a disintegrated person in the tube, and Mukor says, "I was her once."
Okay. So Mukor's doing this, but then later Mukor says, "I was just trying to help." Right? Like,
Well, she was going into the body.
She's not disintegrating the people on purpose.
Yeah.
She just that's a thing that happens when
They
she
don't have
possesses
oxygen
them because they
inside.
wake up and then they can't breathe.
and
Yeah.
Silk didn't get.
Is she
find
trying to
them.
help Silk by like following him around and being like if in case she can be useful, or is she? Do you think she's specifically saying?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I don't think it has anything to do with the people themselves. I think Mukor is a person who goes around inhabiting people. Like that's how she like gets her concept of like what's happening and like communicates with people and whatever.
okay.
And normally when she does that to a person, it doesn't fuck them up. It just she can talk through them and communicate through them.
So
and whatever.
Mamelta would have
They
died,
just
but
feel weird,
but
but everything's fine.
Silk is there to break her free,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And then the
Correct.
first thing that Mamelta says that I recall is we're going to be lovers, right? Like, so that leads you to believe that Mamelta is some sort of some sort of person who's been either programmed or led to believe that as soon as she wakes up, it will be her lover before her, right? I feel like there's stories like this kind of thing. I've seen this kind of thing in stories before.
Well, isn't one of those stories Earth of the New Sun? Where you come onto a ship and somebody teaches you how to be on the ship by being your lover?
Yeah.
Sort of, yeah.
Yes.
But she's
I don't know how
different.
much. I don't
What's
know
her
how
name?
it's connected, but
But
Gunny.
that's like a convention on ships. Then
Uh-huh.
maybe even dating back further, like early days of space travel. Oh, and we don't know when the Earth of the New Sun ship exists anyway, because it always exists.
right.
So it doesn't matter.
But
But I
feel
thought
like
that was Mukor saying that.
saying we'll be lovers, that adds a whole different element to it.
I think that Mukor has a crush on Silk.
Yeah. Connor, were you
Okay.
saying that you read? Is it that you read it online, or it's your idea that Mucor's whole MO is that she just wants to fuck, that she's like trying to have sex because she has an ugly, disgusting body, and so she's looking for someone hot?
That sounds like my idea, but I'm
Yeah, I
not.
think maybe-
I'm not sure
yeah,
if I read that someplace.
You told me that. I don't know where you got it. If that's something that you were just thinking about, though.
Yeah, I think that's my hypothesis.
Also, Mukor hasn't been, I don't think, although this is not totally, I mean, this is not out of the realm of possibility given where she lives and who her dad is around. Even if she hasn't been like regularly interfered with sexually, she has had animals implanted in her uterus and given birth to them, which is definitely a form of like a sexual abuse.
Yeah.
And that would that would track with someone whose like sexuality is like like warped in some sense. Like it doesn't follow the normal course.
Well, she
Well,
is
she's
also
probably an adolescent. She's probably young and just starting to like get horny, but she looks
Exactly.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's horny. She's locked in a room, but she can astral project. I think that she's trying to do it.
And that could be why she was in the yellow house. Wait, I think you said that. I think that was part of your theory.
That was because she was hanging around the whores.
Yo, and this kind of, I don't think that this is Gene's intention, but I feel like because he just writes about true things, it tracks to a true thing, is that like I feel like when young kids have access to the internet and are coming into their sexuality, that like this is an absolutely like natural reaction apparently to that confluence. Like little kids cyber, like little kids like do nude pics, like they like if you're having those feelings and you need some kind of outlet for them, and the internet is there, like no one's watching everything you do on the internet, it's gonna happen. Like that's clearly, I feel like we've learned over the last 2 decades, that's what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I had Barbie dolls, I would make them have sex all the time. I didn't know what sex was, but I was just like, immediately was like, these dolls have to fuck. And like every kid does that who has,
Yeah, just Muko is able to use living humans
Human
as
bodies.
her Barbie dolls.
I don't know. Is
That
it
shit's fucked up.
Mukor at first? Like, as soon as Mamelta wakes up, is Mukor there? Like, I feel like it's a little bit obscured.
It is.
Like, we definitely see Mukor after like a few minutes, right? But up until then,
I think it is her. I think it is her the whole time. I was just rereading it.
well, okay, so you see the bit where the Mamelta person becomes super stilted, right? Like that's definitely.
But before that, he says he risked a glance at her face, careful not to let his gaze stray below her long and graceful neck. There was something familiar, something horrible that he struggled to deny in her smile. And I think that's like...
That's the rictus grin.
Beautiful.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
But where is that?
So if it's Mukor saying we're going to be lovers, maybe she's saying that because she's got a good human body. They're alone in the dark. We're going to be loved. This is what I was going for.
I never thought about it that way before, but in reading it now, I think that's...
She's like, here it is. I've been following your ass around, and now everything has aligned. These are the conditions. We're going to be lovers.
Was this the first? I guess this is the first time that they have been in that position to be alone.
Yeah. Well, ever since he actually went in her room, which is like when the whole thing gets enkindled, to make sense she's not trying to have sex with him there. But as soon as she leaves, she's like, got to get that dude alone. When can I get you alone?
I wonder if Mukor doesn't even realize that she can have sex with her own body.
Oh, yeah. That's a cool idea.
I mean, there's no evidence one way or the other in the book. It's just amusing.
I mean, she may
Keeping
be
warm at night.
like disassociation is a part of her thing.
Mm-hmm.
She is like the spirit of disassociation, the archetype of it in this book.
A child of Wolfe.
Well, how does Gene know about so many things? So many things unrelated to like industrial engineering.
Yeah, how dare he fucking know things other than industrial engineering?
And how do you do that?
Like, I get what you're saying. It's hard to put yourself in somebody else's position that well.
It's kind of scary to think like, okay, he thinks about the processes of how things are made that in like a real mechanical way, and yet he also understands emotions. Like, I'd like to think that those two things are kind of unrelated, but Gene seems to be sort of evidence that when you know how to think real good about mechanical processes, you can get a lot of insight into seemingly irrational behavior in humans.
But that kind of like compartmentalization and subjectization of information, I feel like is a fairly modern thing. I think if you go back 400 years ago, if you knew about if you were a person who knows about things, you would know about everything. Knowledge
that
was
old?
more holistic then. And I think that knowledge is inherently more holistic than how we treat it now.
Yeah, yeah. We talked about this very early. I feel like in our thing. I think it was very early. Maybe it was when we were still meeting. It might have been when we were in the hotel and out of the theater. But I remember at one point we had this really great metaphor that we all kind of came up with together about how like knowledge was in a basket, and the basket, like the volume has never changed. It's just the things in the basket have been broken down until now they're like little grains of sand.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think about that a lot.
Well, it's we have more little bits,
Mm-hmm.
but they're like not cohesive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the volume is unchanged. The total amount has not increased. We've just broken it until we have different, we've divided everything into its own little piece.
Yeah. I have a knee-jerk reaction to this of that's not true. Information is being created all the time, but that's at the edge of the universe, and I think we're talking about a sphere of influence that this is true in.
Mm-hmm.
That whole thing was just I was processing what's inside of me. I don't think I should have said that out loud.
No, it's
get it.
interesting. I like it. And is it maybe fair to say that there's difference between information that exists in the universe and information we have access to and are able to like manipulate and recognize?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. The basket is what we can access and recognize and do something with.
Yeah.
It's not
Science, I think, calls it the known universe, and it's governed by how fast light travels. Because, like, there are stars that are older than the universe, it appears to us, because of light shift, because they're moving closer to us, their light gets to us quicker than it would take for them for the light to travel across the whole universe. Also, there are things that we see now that have moved beyond what is considered the universe, because if it's farther away than light can reach us in the time that the universe has existed, then that star, for all intents and purposes, no longer exists, because it can never affect us and we can never affect it. And I don't know what this means about the nature of information, but it means something, I think. Oh, because information can only in science, information travels through light. Like, if light can't get to you, you can't get information. Or so it seems when they talk about it on YouTube.
What you're saying makes sense to me.
Far out.
Because, I mean, metaphorically, we do consider, like, oh, when you become enlightened, information, light.
Yes.
And if you can't see something, if you don't know it's there, it's completely irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's affecting you.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, and how are light and sound related? Isn't it just like a speed of vibration that makes them different?
Well, the
What is
speed
a
of light
wave
is a
and
fundamental
whether it's a
constant in the
particle?
universe. What?
Yeah, it has, Jordan, you're saying wavelengths? It has something to do with wavelengths, right?
Well, one is a wave. Well, light, right? Light is a particle, right?
And a wave.
And a wave.
Right, but
Light
light is
is a particle and
electromagnetism. Like,
Right. Yeah.
and the speed of light is a fundamental constant that's built into the structure of reality, whereas sound is just molecules bumping against
It's
each
just a
other.
thing. It's
Just.
Okay, I do think that there's a hierarchy here.
Sound is a condition, and light is like a thing, right? I mean, no one says that, I don't think, but I'm just saying, like, it's a condition. Sound is something happening to matter.
Yeah. And light is its own thing. There's no particle of sound.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's actually that's the important distinction, I think. Like,
People do say that.
oh no, the like, so light is both wave and particle. Like, sound is only a wave, but light is a wave and particle, and all particles are also waves. But like, that makes it a more fundamental thing than sound.
Johan has expressed it as sound is kinetic and mechanical.
Exactly, and light is radiant.
There's some other Johan stuff from earlier I want to say. He says, I think Wolfe is like a genius in specifically regards to framing things and connecting things, and then pointing out the exceptional qualities where things connect less. I think he sees people and groups just as systematically or mechanically as they can be without being cynical, and he makes strong exceptions. A lot of Wolfe characters go through the motions of their role and have defining moments in between, I think. That I find that to ring true to me. That the exceptions part is really important. Like that's like I feel like to him that's like the magic of humanity, is that there are great patterns and tendencies and forces and stuff, but human beings, you never fucking know. Like sometimes things happen that are out of order. Which makes sense for a person who has a religion where miracles are really important.
Sorry, everybody. Sorry. I'm running away from a dog.
You're safe now.
Oh man, it's funny that we got to the particles and waves from Mucor being horny.
It's a fundamental constant in the universe. Horniness.
It's a power that we, are powerless to when two people want it, like, you've got to exert incredible amount of force to stop it.
There's there's an element of the movie Southland Tales, this phrase that keeps getting repeated, which I feel like is not repeated for any good reason. Teen horniness is not a crime. I feel like that fits into this conversation somehow. Sarah Michelle Gellar has a pop song in it called Teen Horniness is Not a Crime. She also has a talk show in which she talks about how teen horniness is not a crime.
There was a reckoning at the school I work with that was like real big and flamboyant and stuff. And
This is Carver?
No. But one of the things that was really interesting was that there was a lot of different grievances that got kind of mooshed together, and one of them was dress code and dress code violations, and how the kids had this idea that we should be allowed to wear anything we want and we can't be punished for just existing, which is what you're doing when you tell me I can't wear a short skirt, or my boobs are out too much, or whatever it is, that I'm being punished for just existing and having a body, which I feel like is an attitude that's I don't know how to judge it or whatever, but I do know that it's unfamiliar to people of my age. It didn't exist when I was in school. No one would have formulated the thing that way. They would have been
it definitely existed when you were in school.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be expressed that way, though.
We were in school at the same time, and I talked to people about this.
And they said, I'm being punished for just existing?
I'm being punished for having tits.
Yeah, but that's different.
I knew people who were upset about that all the time.
Yeah, but that's different. That's a totally different philosophy, I think, than I'm being punished for just existing.
Okay.
I don't think it's that different.
I don't understand the difference.
I think the language that younger generations have to talk about this kind of thing has evolved. They have a much different forum for learning and talking about this kind of thing. So,
But it did.
But it's the same sentiment.
Before. It's
Yeah.
just more. It's just mainstream now. It just wasn't before.
I guess I have the sense that when I was in school and someone was like, I'm being punished for having tits, it was like the sexual dimension, like the fact that you were being sexualized wasn't like, it wasn't like ludicrous to the person. It was just wrong. Whereas now I feel like when you formulate it as like, I'm being punished for just existing, it's like, I don't know why anyone would see anything sexual in this. Not like I shouldn't be punished for what they see sexually in this. Does that make sense?
Not yet for me. I'll have to think about it.
Like when
It's a difference of like the position you're speaking from. Maybe is what you're saying.
yeah, or like the way that you're thinking about the other person, that's the person that's punishing you. Like I feel like when I was a kid and people had that grievance, it was like your sexual, like it's your problem. You're sexualizing me, and like I don't know, like that wasn't an alien thing. It was just in a wrong situation. Whereas I feel like with kids today, it's like an alien act that an adult would like say like you dressing sexy has something to do with sex.
Huh.
Well, you know what it is really, like, at its heart, is that the adults are attracted to the kids, and that freaks them out.
I got the sense.
Sometimes I don't know. That's every time.
I think that's a big part of it because they're like, you know, what like they're it's the teacher thinking of the student as a sexual being when they see them in shorts, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but I think
Which doesn't necessarily have to mean that the teacher is attracted to them.
Yeah,
I think
that's
often
true.
the teacher
That's
is
true.
not attracted to them.
That's
They're
a
just thinking that person's sexy now, and I don't like that.
I think that sometimes, and I think there definitely are cases where it's like a repression that the teacher is acting out. Like I definitely think that's going on sometimes. I think also sometimes, especially when you have the same, like you have a whatever, like a cishet woman teacher, dress coding like a young woman. I think sometimes it's this idea that in this environment, if you inject like any amount of sexuality into this environment of teenage kids, like you're like playing with fire and I'm not going to be able to control what's going on anymore. And then you pretending like that's not a part of what's happening is like disingenuous.
I would like to interject, and also I want to acknowledge that I've always had a masculine body, and that these are things that I've only been able to garner from talking to other people about what's going on with them. In so doing, I've gotten the impression that the problem is about that when you're 13 or 14 or 12, and the problem's first happening, it's more like, I wore this shirt last year, and it's fine, and that was fine. But now my body's done something. I didn't want it to do it, and now I can't wear this shirt, and I don't understand. Is a big sense of what I was getting when it was happening in my school.
I feel like I feel like everyone's overthinking this. I'm not. It's tough to like get into this conversation now. I mean, I've been a teacher for various periods. Like maintaining order among students is like an essential aspect of being a teacher of young humans. And part of that, I guess, I never really got into this specific issue, and it never got to that point. But I imagine that what is happening is that students want to dress however the fuck they want, which is natural, and all students are like that. And they develop new arguments for that are somewhat rooted in truth and somewhat just rooted in them just trying to make whatever argument they want, because that's what children do, right? And they latch onto like whatever language they can and an excuse, but they just want to look sexy for the the other students, and that's like their MO, and they'll latch onto whatever language. They're not like evolved. Like students aren't. I mean, they might be evolved in a way with their use of language and how they compared to how they used to be. But like the minds of children are still like fairly undeveloped. Like they're not having these like philosophical ideas. Like they're
That's why I want to circle back around to my position, which is that they are confused. You know, like I just
they're not
remember my
confused
friend in the
about
fifth
wanting to
grade.
dress sexy.
My friend in the fifth grade, the first person I knew to get breasts, she didn't think about sex yet. She didn't want to be viewed as a sexual object.
Like
She
fashion.
she was poor, had the t-shirts that she had always had, and now she had absurdly large breasts. And she didn't know what to do about that. And maybe that's only one person, and it's not everybody.
Yeah, that's like an instance. But yeah, I mean, bodies and school and clothing are just these complicated.
What you're saying, Tim, like really resonates with what I witnessed during this like reckoning or whatever, in that like there was just so many issues going on and people that had different issues, and like everyone had grasped onto a language that they found gave them power over adults, and like there were so many different motivations in play, and yet like because what those adults' jobs were, like they couldn't like extricate those things and make like distinctions, or else it was going to be seen as being unfair or arbitrary to the kid. The kids would interpret it that way, when like to anyone that was grown, it was very clear that like a lot of what was going on was like we put kids in a situation where they're frustrated because they don't feel like they have control, and then they found this way to get like a massive amount of control, and it just went Akira, like fully, you know, like the, you know, the whole stadium's now full of the powerful mutated body, and they can't stop it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's really interesting that like a lot of people like really want to make it this like linear triumph of morality, and it's like you can't be around kids and not recognize that it's so not simple.
Yeah, not at all. No, kids are always trying to find ways out of the established order. That's just natural, you know.
Yeah.
And it's the job of the institution leaders to pen them in somehow. Like that's what you're trying to do. You're not trying to stifle them. You're not trying to be a dick. Like you just, when you're in that position, you're like, you have to like. It's very abstract, I know, but you have to like control it. You have to get them into the classroom. They have to listen to you. They have to not be distracted by one another. Like there's like millions of things. You have to impose this order.
It's fucked up if they just don't ever do their homework. And a lot of them, even at the really nice school where I work, a lot of them do that. And it's just like totally undermines the situation. And it's a way bigger deal than they think it is.
Wait, what is?
That like kids that are just like not going to do any of their homework, and then just like make lame excuses when they're confronted about it, and just like clearly don't give a fuck. Like that's
very
like
common.
And it really just takes a fucking toll on everybody's thing. And I get it. I didn't do homework when I was in high school. I didn't open my backpack when I got home from school for like the last like 2.5 years of high school. And yet, like now that I'm on the other, I'm not really on the other side because I'm not like a full teacher, but like being an adult in the room, it's like holy shit. Like I did not, like I don't know, luckily I didn't have any friends and I was a freak, so I don't think I had the same impact that like popular kids that I see are doing that now. But
were you saying that popular kids don't do homework and then other kids are like, oh, it's cool not to do homework and stop doing homework?
Or
You know, the whole point of the education system is to make people like ready for
the factory,
to be like subjugated to the workforce.
Yeah, that's a part of the thing that's like really crazy with the reckonings, is that like we're still in Henry Ford's system. That Henry Ford, the guy who, you know, the fascist, and I don't use that word lightly, but he was literally...
No, it's the most accurate use of the word fascist ever.
Yeah, Henry Ford counts in every way, and he was the one that designed our school, and like the idea that we can like interject this academic language into it, and that's going to save everyone who's involved in it, and then we continue with the system is like insane, and also a great microcosm of what is happening with the whole like order of our society. Like Henry Ford designed this shit. You can't like talk in a new way and free people.
it's not being, but the issue is the reason that it's being done this way is because inherently, like, that's still the goal. Like, you still, because now it's just like, instead of going to the factory, you go to your like data entry job or whatever the fuck you're doing.
Well, you don't go anywhere. You just plug in.
Like whatever the fuck it is, or you're driving an Uber or like whatever you're doing. But it's like the goal is still the same.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to like put. It's like just the like cognitive dissonance because you have to be able, you're trying to like make it seem like it's not that, and it's about like enlightening people and like educating people or whatever it is, but it's like not about that, you know.
It's kind of mutated, like since the late 90s it's become pretty single tracked about like getting students to college, and I'm not sure it's always exactly functioned that way. Yeah, you're talking about like way back.
It definitely didn't.
Maybe getting kids accustomed to like the lifestyle of going to a factory or whatever. There's definitely socialization involved, but it's become more specifically about getting students to college, preparing them for college and for white collar careers, which has been like remarkably unsuccessful. But in general, you know, the United States education system is was a fantastic concept in, you know, the evolution of humanity. Like, it was a beautiful idea, like that you could educate every student or do something with students. It's not working right now. It's falling apart, and we're starting to see how it's like splitting at the seams. And in so many ways, it never really did work. I mean, it's been inequitable for decades, and it's been riddled with problems. But the problem now is that it's
like that
oriented towards college.
It was like that.
Sorry.
I'm just saying, like, all the things that are like the problems with it that like never really worked were like baked into the pie. Like that's like part of the point of it too. Like the inequity and all that shit. Like, you send poor kids to the poor school, and that like
right.
it's that shit is not. It's by design. It's not.
I mean,
well, in the United States, yeah, like in most
like because it's all just
right.
like.
It's tied to your property taxes. So the quality of your school will depend on the quality of the real estate surrounding the school. And then now schools are being pulled apart entirely by charter schools and you know, the various political machinations that want to take apart school. Like, public school probably is going to struggle, and it's probably going to go away in the next 20 or 30 years. It's probably going to become some kind of business, or it's going to change to some model that we can't quite conceptualize yet. But it's being pulled apart right now for a lot of different reasons.
Have you read
but it's
the
a
Diamond
good idea.
Age?
It works. I mean, schools ought to work. Like, there's difficulties in control, you know, like working with students and young people. But the idea of schools are good. Like, if you look into other countries or areas where it's done equitably, like it's a good system. Like, everyone here has benefited highly from schools.
The internet's made it obsolete because school teaches you facts, and the internet makes it so that you no longer need to know facts. All the facts are written down and look upable. So now you need to know. Now you need to know how to. School is that's true too. I think that the nature of facts and how school wants you to socialize is related in a way that I don't like. But knowing facts is no longer what thinking needs to be. We need to be able to put those facts together, and school know how to do that. Yeah,
I think that.
But I would like to recommend the Diamond Age to you, because that's where education should be moving, and they've made experiments to do that already that have been wildly successful.
Do you want to?
Which is an internet-based education system.
If I'm remembering correctly, because I did read Diamond Age, but it was a while ago, everybody gets like this little book, which is kind of like a tablet, a Wi-Fi tablet that has a Alexa type thing in it that mentors you.
No, it's vitally important that it's an actual human being.
Oh, so it connects you to another human. The little, right. I remember the object being really important.
Yeah, it's a book.
I was going to say that we are circling, I think, right around back to what Johan said about Wolfe, which is that like he sees people as being like systematically and mechanical in it, like as a general thing, but that they're defining moments between our people in the most going through the motions of their role. And I think, Tim, that's when education works, is when there's a very specific inspired individual who makes a connection with a kid, which is not really baked into the system. It's the exception, is when and the teacher that I've worked with for the last 5 years at this school that I work with is incredible. And he's just absolutely in the top 2 or 3, probably top 2, at least top 3 teachers I've ever seen in my life at work, doing their job. Which is probably not as many teachers as other people, because I dropped out of college or whatever and didn't do grad school. But this man's amazing. And it's I don't know, I feel like it's just like what Johan said about Wolfe, the humanity comes through despite the mechanical system.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking on a macro level though. I mean, yeah, there's great teachers, there's bad teachers. Great teachers can change people's lives. In school, you can go and you can learn a bunch of stuff. In general, you don't. I would say a lot of learning in life happens outside of classrooms.
Yep.
But the overall experience of bringing groups of children together, allowing them to solve problems and develop friendships and relationships, and to be guided by a series of mentors in a safe, constructive environment is a really good way to facilitate development in young people. It's a successful system when it's done right. Now, of course, the United States fucks it up, but in theory, it's a decent system of socialization. It does work. It's much better than not doing it, depending on how you look at things. I mean, you could have an anarchist society, which most of society was. Schools are new, right? Sending all the kids in your town to a school that everyone puts their money into and that school takes care of them. That's a new thing, that only existed for the tiniest sliver of society up until the 1920s United States, or I mean, maybe in Europe. I don't know the exact history, but around that time, right? More or less.
They have a school in Deadwood.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they have little Bible schools and shit in the United States, but it wasn't a formalized
Yeah, the school in Deadwood was not part of a national system with national standards or anything.
It was, and there was a woman who was we're going to have a school. It wasn't even a town decision. It was a one woman.
Yeah, it would be a volunteer.
I feel like that's the way things should be.
Yeah.
Still what it is.
Wait, so Jen,
I agree. Because part of the thing is it's not about learning how to solve problems and learning how to have relationships and stuff in public school. It's about I'm gonna teach you what the version of history is that propagates the class structure, and I'm gonna teach you about it's all about, in the entirety of the public school system in this country is about propagating the class structure. That is what public education in this country was literally made for and is currently still used for.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get it that there's a fear, I don't know, a fucking Waldorf school or something could potentially, there is a version of school that could be good, but I think largely it's not good in actuality, and it's it's not that it's failing, it's performing very well.
Yeah. It's standards.
Its purpose, which is not the purpose that is the purpose.
Standardizing kids, standardized testing, the more we do that, the worse it gets.
Exactly.
No kid left behind. The whole critique of that, that you're drawing up these people to be at an acceptable standard, but then you're also taking these people who are way above the acceptable standard and bringing them back down. You're homogenizing everybody, and that's the point.
That is one of the, I feel one of the most common techniques of power right now is to present a limit as if it's a push to the boundary. It's to say like we're gonna, it's like no kid left behind. Like we're gonna pull these kids up, but what they're actually doing is establishing a very solid limit beyond which we don't value anything beyond that limit.
Compression.
Yeah, and that's happens. I feel like at school it's very clear, but it's like I feel like anytime right now our federal government is like, we're breaking new ground in anything. It's like we've decided the limit where this shit can stop, and you should feel really proud to have gotten there.
I do think that there's an element of this where like the education system was always designed to do what it's doing. However, at one point there was a net gain from that, and much like capitalism or the way this democracy works, like it's no longer that thing's time, and there is a net loss because of it. And it's because that t-shirt didn't grow when the populace who's wearing it went through puberty. Like it's just not working for the world we're in now because it was designed in a different world.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I don't know. It's more complicated. I think it's wrapped into like economics too, like and politics, and like so much of the control of like standardized things have become way more standardized in like the last 20 or 30 years. Like it didn't used to really be standardized, or if it was, it would be by the municipality or by the state, and now it's like becoming more of a national.
As a resident of New York State, I was tricked into getting a Regents diploma which meant I had to take statewide standardized testing every year. Like it was all about standardization, and then it got worse when Bush became president after I left.
Oh yeah, that's when the real shit started kicking in, yeah.
Because they doubled down on what they were doing instead of trying to do something else.
Standardization it wastes the teacher's time. It's just absolute waste of it. Like takes teachers away from anything other than like a fucking book of right answers that have been determined.
The catechism of facts.
Yeah. And that's, I think that the main reason that we've gotten into this situation now where there are right answers to every political question or philosophical question or contentious thing is because everyone's come up being like the most important people in your life when you're in a formative age are telling you shit that every day that's irrelevant to you or boring, and there's a right answer, you put the right answer in, you move on, and that's what you have to do to get through it. You just put down there's a right thing.
And not only the end product of that is not only is critical thinking not valued or encouraged, but it's actually like critical thinking is like counterproductive and is good. It's taking you away from just like what the fact is that you're supposed to be remembering or like whatever. Like it's not about like that is actually not good for you to do or for society. It's not good for society for you to think that hard about it.
It's definitely not good for students or teachers, I think. It puts people in a situation where they're like, okay, you see the huge problem that's in front of you? Don't address that problem. Get rid of that. Make sure that these are the problems that you have, and then fix these problems. These are the problems we want fixed. If you have a different problem, then get rid of it. And it just makes me think about like the only class I ever failed.
How do you get to the reality in which like everyone's lecturing you on how you have to vote for Joe Biden? Like, how do you get to that point? It's such an extreme point. Like, he is just abominable. Like, he's a terrible, terrible, terrible person.
There's
like,
nothing.
How do we get to this point?
there's really no like.
My mind is still blown by that. It's
Yeah.
just like
He has, like, admittedly, I feel like from his own, like, the company that sells them, he has no appealing aspects whatsoever. He was sold as being not as poisonous as all your other choices. That was, like, the whole pitch.
And this is a man who has multiply lost this
and it's
contest
not, and that's
before.
not even true. And that's
Yeah.
not even true.
He's even
We're
more
finding
poisonous
out.
than a lot of
He's-
the options we had.
He's lost this contest multiple times before so bad that he's had to apologize for how he lost the contest.
Man, it's like really incredible now how, like, we're going into this situation where, like, the last guy, we didn't have any expansion of war. And we actually got these stimuluses. This guy, we're getting expansion of war. We're getting no fucking help, like no wage hikes, like none of the stuff that you would like. The whole, it's like so clear that when Republicans are in, we can get a little bit of that left shit, and when the Democrats are in, we can get a bunch of that right shit. And like it's very clear that it's not going to work another way.
Well, it's funny. My friend the other night summarized it as what did he say? It was like, you're not voting on whether or not there's going to be kids in cages. You're voting on whether or not they're going to say kids in cages on CNN.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you're voting on. You're voting on, like, what you feel like talking about or whatever. It's like not. It's like exactly the fucking same program.
Like Biden's response since he's
But
been.
to your point about the left-right thing, it's true. Like the Democrats' whole brand is like, we have to stay to the right because anything we do is the Republicans are going to call us communists or whatever. But then there's but no one's ever going to call the Republicans communists, so they can throw these little bones. The Democrats can't even throw a bone.
It's like it blowing my mind.
Are just afraid of being communists or whatever.
It's really been blowing my mind how Biden's response to the pandemic is what Republicans were asking for when Trump was president. They wanted to get back to work, no fucking around with these these shutdowns, no stimulus, no giving money to people, no talking about how it's bad in other places. We just shut the fuck up and get back to shit. That's the best thing that we can do as Americans. And like at the time that was abhorrent. That's what the Republicans wanted. And now like they're out of all those branches, and it's exactly what we're getting is what they wanted.
Biden has only ever existed to make Republicans happy. And they hate him and it doesn't make them happy, but he still
Yeah.
Oh, I missed a Johan thing that sounds really good. It's people seeing the reality as fact-based and not frame-based has been generally damaging. Many of my peers as a young person now say they only see facts and don't have a frame or a worldview or a bias, and they say they only follow the evidence, and that seems nuts to me. I feel like he's hitting it.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. Facts terminate at a certain point. Facts have delineated shapes that oftentimes aren't coherent ultimately. If you aren't able to view or I guess interpret facts through a coherent lens, right? What the fuck is the point?
Also,
and that goes back to the whole. And sorry to open up this can of worms, but that goes back to Palestine, Israel, right? And all your woke friends who are pro-Israel, and you're like, what the fuck? How did you get into this? It's that fact-related. It's that fact mindset, oh well, I'm just support Israel.
And the facts got to come from
And
someone.
also Black Lives Matter, and it's what?
Exactly.
That's where the liberal
Facts exist within.
Yeah.
Facts exist within narratives.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you're gonna look at the narrative,
Yeah.
you're not really seeing the facts. It's not. Yeah, it's fucking incredible. It's incredible.
And
This is a theme that we've talked on before a whole bunch of facts aren't
Many
true,
times.
they're factual, and truths aren't based on facts.
Yeah.
And we live in a world of truths. and God lives in a world of facts.
Yep. I believe that.
There's it seems so simple when we're in book club. Like it's very it's not all that complicated, and yet
It is complicated.
well
People don't, I mean, Jen was talking about critical thinking a little while ago. That is a specific skill. That's not a regular thing.
Mhm.
People don't think that way. People absorb thoughts and they parrot them. And I don't mean that cynically or even like I'm not trying to look down on how people work. That's just how people function. Like critical thinking is something you pick up along the way. Incidentally, you probably picked it up in school. But
Especially
Yeah, sure. One of the ways that I learned critical thinking was figuring out how to break class.
yeah, being a smart
My problem, me not doing homework was a small part of the disruption I caused in class. A teacher had to set me aside one time and be like, "Look, I made a lesson plan and I'm going to hit every point in the lesson plan, even if you figure out what the end of the lesson plan is before everybody else and raise your hand and say it. So you might as well just let me teach the class."
you dick.
Like you can't win this class. I'm going to win is what she said to me basically.
She should have said, and you live with your fucking mom. Pay some bills.
I mean, the teacher was actually, she's like, "I understand what your problem is here, and we're not going to be able to help you with that, but please just let me do my job." Like, she was respectful about it. I wasn't being admonished. But yeah.
Well, something that I notice a lot in especially like right-wing online discourse is this consistent appeal to logic and reason.
right, that's huge.
That kind of thing. But so much of what they're doing is very like rhetorical. I don't know. Like I took in undergrad a logic class, and half of it was like formal logic, like true functional stuff, and half of it was just rhetoric, like just studying logical fallacies and stuff. And it's like
tones.
And it's clear that the people who are constantly appealing to logic and reason aren't appealing to any they're not appealing to any sort of like educated understanding of those things. They're only appealing to their own like self-interest and self-made interpretation. And it's I don't know, just it's weird.
There's so much of what like is being what people seem to think is like persuasive arguing is actually someone saying, well, guess what? I found a reason to say this or think this. Did you think maybe you didn't realize I have a reason? Like I can justify this in a way. And so bam, brain man.
Yeah.
Like maybe you've never thought about justifying what you think, but you should fucking give it a shot.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
I find a lot of times, like, you're lucky if you even get that. But then, like, you get that, it's like, if you don't hit a wall before that, like, that's the wall you hit.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, but, what?
That's what
I
the
want to talk
sidewalk
about,
ends.
like, all of this context, though. Like, I'm trying to create, like, a world, like an image here, like where I'm trying to like situate this within like everything else, and they're like, no, well, I've decided, like,
Yeah,
that's not
and
what
that's
I've
a fact. I've decided.
And it's like that whole thing with the, I mean, if you did, it's like that thing with like my argument.
Wait, say that again. You're glitching out a little bit.
Like my argument with my one cousin about Israel, where it came down to the fact of like, well, my highest value is the existence of a Jewish state, and which means like dignity and human life are like below that. And then it's like, okay, well, if that's what you're saying, like that, there we have it. Like if you will admit that to yourself, then I don't know what else where else to go with that.
In like the
that's
like
the point
30,
where it's like, okay, well, we're
30 or
just
40
gonna
years ago, people
gonna agree
would have
to
been
disagree.
upfront about that. people aren't upfront about that anymore. Now
Yeah.
people are like trying to be all obscured about it and trying to come up with like whole arguments, like they try to sound academic and smart. It used to be, yeah, I believe in Israel because that's my fucking nationality and that's where my family and business interests are, like fuck you. Like, okay, well, that's your argument. Now it's like, what's your argument? Like, well, like Israel's country too, and Hamas and rockets and Israel.
I just think
like, there's no argument anymore. But they're just... sorry.
I'm just at this point where, with that shit, where it's like, I'm not interested in any way in trying to change people's minds about it. I just want to make it very clear what it is that they're saying they support. Like, okay, like you support that. I'm just gonna like delineate exactly what it is that you're saying that you support, which is like just shitloads of people dying, people's houses being bulldozed, like they don't have control over their access to water, power, literally anything else. Like, also this shit is entirely illegal under international law. Like, all the shit. It's like, okay, like if you sign off on that, you sign off on that, but you're not allowed to say that you're interested in like rights and like humanity and stuff, and have this position. Like, you can't have it both ways. Like,
you've won the argument. Congratulations. Your prize.
As long as you like. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's a really smart method.
I just feel like people need to be held. My goal at this point is people need to be held accountable to what the meaning of their viewpoint.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to make you have another viewpoint, but like if that's your viewpoint, you need to recognize what it is that you're saying.
That's a great way to debate someone.
I don't know what else to
have
do
them clarify their points.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, what is your point? What are you talking about? All right, let's talk about what you believe.
I feel like the greatest way to undermine an argument is to try to agree with it.
Not even agree with them, but just say like, okay, I believe suffering is bad and we should act in ways that decrease human suffering. All right, there, I said it. Took me a sentence. All right, now let's figure out why you support Israel. All right, like, because that's the reason I'm against it. Like, everything else.
I think what.
Wait, sorry, no, I'm done.
I think what Connor was saying was like, I am agreeing with it. It's like trying to agree with it, which is like, you're saying like, okay, how can we make this, like, where are we diverging? Like, how can we make this viewpoint like fit with my viewpoint? Like, how, like, where, and then you get to the point of futility where you have to recognize that those two viewpoints are irreconcilable.
Right.
After
if you stand with a person in the middle of their argument and then travel with them to the edges, then you know that they're going to be looking off that edge and know where it is now. Is what I feel.
I think the best way to undermine an argument, or at least my favorite way, is to pretend that you're like basically like mentally a fifth grader, and you really want to get what they're saying, and you need them to keep dumbing it down for you until they get to the point where they like hit the fundamental basics under their thing, and they have to say it themselves.
Also, the benefit of this mode of argument. The benefit of this mode of argument is that it's naturally empathic, and you could find out that you're the one who's wrong. You know, like if you're just standing on your side of the argument, you'll never realize you're wrong if you're wrong. You have to go check out other people's arguments to be able to figure out.
And the other, I mean, leaping off of that, Connor, is that I think it's also important if you're having these, arguments or discussions to understand that there is a human being on the other side of it, and somehow they have been led to this. So so I'm not saying they're right, but somehow they've come to this. So, and when you get to that kind of like middle, if you allow yourself to get to this middle area, you can absorb a little bit of that, which is useful for understanding where it comes from, especially if you're interested in like deconstructing that mentality. Like, it is useful to listen to people because
Well, it's really funny.
people do have points of view, you know, like if you get into it, or at least they come from somewhere, you know, like generally it just boils down to this is what my community believes. This is what my family believes, you know, like that's generally what's underneath all this nonsense.
Yeah, I'm alone if I stop believing this.
Well, it's really funny.
It's what I've heard.
It's really funny with like the Israel thing in my family because it's like I grew up hearing all the same shit they did. Like I know exactly where they're coming from. I know like exactly what their argument is. I know like literally exactly their point of view because like that's what I was told my whole life too, you know? And like I had to actively like seek out information in order to like make my own concept of reality. And so like when I'm talking to them, it's like at some point I said at some point my cousin was like, well, you know, you really have to like look at things from the like you really have to like read stuff like it's not from a perspective or something. And I was just like, no, I know. Like, I know. I was like, I know what the argument is. Like, I was raised in that. And she was just like, oh, yeah. Like, oh, yeah, okay, right. Yeah,
It's like, Jen, you're trying to
it's
save...
like, no, you have to, like, we all were raised in the same environment. Like, you have to actually, like, look outside of that perspective. Like,
I feel like
you're the one
What
not
you're
doing
describing
it.
is heresy, though, right? Like, isn't this the definition of heresy?
I don't know.
That if you're in a dogmatic system and you take it upon yourself to explore ideas outside of that dogmatic system, that I feel like that's the definition of heresy. I don't think that heresy is a valid thing.
Well,
But
the
if
way...
you're inside of a dogmatic system, that seems like it would be heresy.
Is heresy? I guess I was thinking. I guess my concept of heresy is specifically religious.
We're talking about religion right now, right?
Complicated.
No. Zionism is not Judaism. They're not the same thing, and that's
Right,
like
but
part
they
of my
think
whole,
it
like,
is.
argument.
They think it is, don't they?
I don't think they
Zionists.
do. No, I don't think they do.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Then that was an assumption that I had. I always felt
Yeah,
like part of
because
the whole
the
problem
point
with
is not
Zionism is
that,
they
like-
think it's religion.
Because the point is not that like for most people you argue with, the point is not that like we have to have Israel because God told us we have to have Israel. For most Jews, we have to have Israel because of the Holocaust. Like it's not about what God it's not religious reasons. It's like practical, political survivalism reasons. Like that's not the rationale. Like I don't think it's not typically tied in spiritually. I mean, it is like kind of after the fact they kind of try to put some of that stuff on there or whatever, but that's not really what it's about. When you're arguing with people about it, it's not a religious argument you're having. It's like a political.
I have not
social
argued with
argument.
people about it, so.
Yeah, I mean that's for the best.
I would say that there's a religious...
I don't really recommend doing it. I just feel like I can't not do it.
I have a hard time finding Zionists. Like, naturally in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only
Not me.
Zionist that I've known, that I've talked about, that I've known is a Zionist is Barry Solon, the owner of Video Americaine.
Which no longer exists.
I don't think either of them exist.
The
Barry
person?
or the store.
Oh, okay.
Facebook is a good way to find Zionists.
Ooh, I got a good callback. That time,
Look through that stream.
that time Kenny and I were at the sushi restaurant. When we at the, like toward the end, the conversation that Stu's ex-wife and the two kids were having was where like the two kids were trying to like argue with the mom about Israel.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Because they're like young adults now. They're like late teenagers, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of good.
Wait,
I
they
was just
were.
like, oh,
they,
yeah,
wait,
here we
Lori
go.
is pro Israel.
Yeah, of course she is. Yeah.
I don't really.
Yeah, of course she is.
Most of what I know about Lori is that she's a wet blanket. I don't know. I haven't had much truck with Lori herself. I've only gone through Stu.
No, I think she's cool. That's the funniest viewpoint. I actually think she's cool.
I am a wet
Yeah, the wet blanket would be Stu's perspective of her. I don't know her at all.
Yeah. I'm just saying I don't think that's a fair characterization of Lori. But
I'm sure that
I just think like when I'm saying of course she is, it's like coming from my perspective of coming from the Jewish community. It's like anyone Jewish over the age of like 45 is a fucking Zionist. Or like statistically speaking, there are very few who aren't.
Bernie.
It's only younger people who are like majority anti. Or maybe
So that's
probably
interesting.
not
So
majority.
there's kind of going to be. Is that the solution? We just wait for them to die?
Isn't it the solution to so much?
Well, it's interesting.
Well, that's why
because-
I'm
it's
wondering
interesting
about this, because
even
it seems like it's the
government-
solution so often.
I don't think you should talk about Jews dying and call it a solution.
It's interesting because
Correct. You are very
even
correct.
even the Israeli government has at this point like the PR wing of the Israeli government has recognized that American Jews are no longer the base of support that they have to focus the most on, and it's actually evangelical Christians.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, the IDF thirst traps is like a Mr. Show sketch. I think they're so funny.
The idea of thirst traps?
How did we get here?
IDF.
Yeah, you don't know about this?
Idea of. And I thought you were
IDF.
just completely digressing into a completely different direction.
No, IDF. That's the Israeli military, right?
Yeah, I just didn't understand what you said.
They have a, you know about the thing, right? Yeah, it's so
The
incredible.
flirty fishing they engage in?
Yeah, it's totally
Rachel
like,
told me about it when she came back.
it's totally like a sketch from a freaking Mr. Show or something. It is. I mean, parody is so difficult now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess the thing is that like the next great satirist will be so good because they have such a high bar to clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you can't make up something. You can't like Joe Biden is peak funny. Like you can't make a joke about him because he's already like fully joke form.
This is an asshole bit, but I do think that Seth Meyers is doing a really good job of making Joe Biden jokes.
But can you give us an example?
Oh God, what was he doing? Fuck. No, I can only do the impression. I can't remember the actual jokes right now. It's just about how he was meeting the French Prime Minister, and he looked like a dad who was giving his adult son financial advice, and then he would go off on the example of what he was saying, which I'm not. There's no way for me to tell this joke and convey how it's funny to you.
Wait, so
I'm
the
sure
funny
you
part
all
is
understand.
Is the funny part him being like doing a Biden voice and saying
It's the character of Biden that he's invented.
Okay. Are we talking about sort of a Will Ferrell's Bush where it's kind of surreal and not really grounded in the man?
I mean, if it's surreal, it's surreality is how unsurreal it is. It's just like It's just like look at your grandpa. He's just a nice grandpa, and that's all he is. Is just he doesn't get what's going on. You know, he's gonna say a thing that he thinks is tough love to you, but it really has nothing to do with anything that we're doing here. Like that's the joke, and I think it's hilarious. It's dangerous because it kind of softens Biden and makes Biden like a lovable guy.
That's what it sounds like to me.
It's still funny.
I'm siding with Jen that the situation is like somebody who goes on stage with with like a pants and shirt made of tomatoes. You can't throw tomatoes at them because they're wearing the fucking tomatoes. Their whole outfit is tomatoes. I was wanted to say turds, but like I'm not. You can't throw turds at someone on stage, and you gotta touch the turds.
There's historical precedent. I mean, like monkeys, right?
The history of monkeys.
Return to
Well, they're part of our history.
You're going way back.
I am almost all the way back.
Oh, Johan has asked if we saw at the end.
No, that's apes. We're talking apes. Monkeys and apes. Not the same.
Correct. They're not the same, but they're part of the same evolutionary tree.
Is that a fact?
I don't know. I don't really deal in facts, but I'm pretty sure. It's a surety. Or a suritude. I don't remember which is the right word. Or real word, rather.
I don't know if suritude is the word.
Yeah, but it's pretty cool, right?
Maybe.
Wait, can I ask a quick question about the end of this chapter?
Yes. God.
So wait, I mean, it's kind of related-ish. But the last thing that happens is that Mamelta is kind of coming to some kind of realization. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but she's upset, right? And so she says to Silk, like, hold me. You know, she says something more specific too, something kind of cryptic, like, I'm never going back or something, right? Like what, like she says, and never come back. And it's not even clear what she means. And never come back, hold me, oh, hold me. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. So then Silk hugs her, and Silk is like aware of her naked, soft flesh beneath the robe. Now, this is where I want to talk about Silk. Because if Silk was really chaste, right? Like if you imagine if you were a super chaste person, you could just hug someone and not be like presciently aware of their naked skin, right? Like
He's a teenager.
Well,
Not at his age.
Oh no, he's early 20s.
yeah, but
Yeah, he's like 24.
Even if he was a teenager, if he truly like was a chaste individual, right? Like if he truly inhabited that mentality, that like lifestyle as part of his spiritual understanding and lens to the world, couldn't he just be able to just not think about that? Like,
I
I don't think that's the point. I don't think that's how chastity works. I think vows of celibacy are all about that you have the desire to do it and you don't do it. Like I don't think it's about not having the desire to do it.
Or even conquering the desire once and for all. It's about the struggle.
Yeah, bravery is not the absence of fear.
Because
no, I understand all that. Yeah,
I don't think that's what that's about.
Well, the second thing is that Silk just like truly isn't a chaste person because
of the sex that he has.
Yeah, well and like he we don't know what he was like before, but like at the very least seeing Hyacinth flipped on a switch in his mind, and it started him on the road of having second thoughts about his
Horn dog millionaire.
I mean, he's like a dude who's like a central character in a Wolfe book. He's gonna be fighting a natural impulse. That's like,
I mean, that's
relatable.
what sets him apart from other like solar cycle protagonists, right? But he's a horn dog. Like he's definitely like he's always aware of these things, right? Like he's super aware, and he's like kind of fixated on them too. Like I think so which I think totally. I'm not saying that doesn't make sense. Like absolutely makes sense. Like I understand that, but I'm just specifically calling into question, like his sort of portrayal as like that like fool, or like the person who's like above all of it, or who's like not aware, and just kind of like walking through every situation and stumbling the right direction. And like I feel like this sort of gives us a little glimpse that he's, I don't know.
No, I feel what you're saying.
He is something else than what he presents himself as.
We have
I think
what I get.
I think that he exacerbates the mind-body schism Like he likes to think of his mind being its own entity, and every once in a while you see how the mind is produced by his body, which is horny.
Right.
Johan says that he thinks Silk is programmed to be like a king, not like a saint. Like that's his programming.
Yeah.
And Sanic just rised out of the muck.
What's up, Sanic?
Didn't know Sanic was lurking there, and says real priests aren't like that either. And I think we would all agree.
Yeah.
Even if they don't have sex with children, real priests still have sexual urges.
Yes, I don't think anybody is doing the all priests are kitty fiddlers thing here.
I was just checking.
Well, I also think there's like a difference between having natural sexual urges and just being with some recently awakened, female person in like this cryogenic freezing situation or whatever in the downstairs of a spaceship, and she's upset, and she's like, "Give me a hug," and then you do, and then you're like, oh yeah, like I could feel her body.
Yeah,
like
I get what you're saying totally.
I feel like that's a specific thing, right? That's not generally like being a like having like sexual urges.
Yeah,
that's like specifically.
You should be worried about
having
that person.
Well, that person is sex starved.
Yeah.
He doesn't have an
He
outlet.
did act sexy because of Newport. That's true.
Wait,
well,
he doesn't have an outlet.
Yeah,
There will be lovers, and then she starts flitting around, being like, "And I can fly."
Yeah,
she wasn't
that
like,
is
"Oh
weird.
God, please."
Like
Right away.
Silk knows better, but if you were to take this like whole scene at face value, he has gotten mixed messages.
Well, also I feel like he's even more than sex starved. He potentially has just had sex for the first time.
Oh yeah.
Which I think is
blood in the water.
Like immediately after the first time you've had sex might be the horniest you are. Because before you were just like, ooh, I want to see what it's like, and now you're like, I need it again,
You're like, it was everything I wanted and more.
This could definitely just be my relationship with sex.
Oh, it is, but it's also mine. And it's not exclusively male. There's like I've known that it can happen across that particular
like
divide.
I think it's more female than it is male.
I mean, girls are so fucking horny.
And I think sometimes male horniness is more about possession and control than it is about like I'm horny. I think there's a lot of boys that I knew growing up who would talk horny, who had no idea what they were doing and just.
It might also be about fulfilling expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And women pretending they're not, girls specifically pretending they're not horny, is also about fulfilling expectations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's there's like an infinite depth to this topic.
Human sexuality, baby.
It's so interesting. I feel like
I don't know. I think it's pretty straightforward, cut and dry.
Jordan has a point.
I feel like it's proof that people have souls. The infinite variety of sexual like attitudes and behavior, and that like like you can't like I don't feel like you can really have sex with people and find like groups that make any sense. Like you can't like if you try to group partners that you've had, they have to be these like really general such general groups that they're not useful. Like, and how could people who like grow up in the same place or have like all these things in common, how can they have such wildly divergent like sexual appetites and behaviors and attitudes unless that people are really not as chemically, materially created as Neil deGrasse would have us believe. Perversion proves that there's soul.
Well, okay.
I think we can call it kink.
Like, do you think people have always had like fetishes and stuff? Like, do you think if you went back to like a medieval village or something, right, and you like were invisible and you peeked in on some like medieval couple banging, do you think they were doing shit like tying each other up and like?
Yeah, they were doing it more.
You think so? I don't know. I have
They
no
were doing
idea.
it in front of a room full of other people, like, because they all lived in one room and everybody fucking slept in the same like place with no fucking walls and no privacy.
Yeah, your wedding night, you were supposed to have sex in front of everyone so that we all just know that you're really married now.
Okay, so that's weird. I mean, that seems like something, but that doesn't seem necessarily like a fetish, like a psychological like I don't know, sex game or whatever. Like,
So what is the contrary?
I'm
like,
just curious. I
what
have
would
no
the
idea.
contrary situation be? Like, if it wasn't the case that people have always been like basically the same level of perverted, what would have changed about it? Like the media, like access to printed matter.
I'm just spitballing here, but I feel like with the rise of society and like power dynamics, and also like the rise of media and sexualization and portrayal, I feel like maybe has like made sexuality a more complicated thing over like
I think
the last
Kinsey's
100
research.
I would guess that it
Kinsey's
does
research
the exact
shows that-
opposite. I would guess that
okay.
it does the exact opposite
I don't
because having like social like portrayals of what like would make actually people feel like, oh well, there are certain ways that you're supposed to do that, and then and it actually like I would guess that actually like the kind of like more like media based like layers of around sexuality would serve to like inhibit that more than bring it out.
Yeah, the Puritans had to try really hard to get people to be rude, and they got kicked out of their fucking country. Like, they were like, everyone hated them.
Because they sucked.
They suck, but they had to work really hard to get people, like, close down the festivals and, like, make things chaste or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that Kinsey's research has shown evidence of kink and fetish in animals. Like, I think that it's older than humans.
It's definitely like a constant in literature. I feel like I'm trying to think of the oldest book I know that has like real dirty jokes in it, but it's like one of the most enduring things about really old dirty jokes is that they still make complete sense and they're still funny.
Huh.
Like Ovid's got like that's maybe as old
Or
as
Canterbury
anything I've
Tales.
heard.
And there's, like, the dicks drawn in Pompeii and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And I mean, I guess like isn't the Venus of Willendorf is kind of like in the mix here?
Which is one of the oldest things.
Yeah. Art was probably invented to make porn. I can't see what else they would draw first besides a dick or a pair of tits,
Oh, another one
both.
of they just recently discovered one of the oldest things ever, and it was a huge cache of dildos. This conversation is also making me think of all the terrible dolphin videos.
Videos?
Dolphin?
Yeah.
I didn't know there were videos.
I saw a video of a dolphin fucking a severed fish head.
Oh, okay. God, phew, you had me scared there for a second.
Oh no, yeah, not
American
humans,
fish head.
just what the dolphins are doing.
It's on their
American fish heads. My new gross out comedy.
They're
For the dolphin world.
There's probably video of somebody, manually completing a dolphin because that happens.
Oh, I mean,
a lot.
What's his name? John Lilly's research was that research where a woman lived in a house with a dolphin, and in order to get things done, she had to jerk him off, and that had to be documented, I'm sure.
Yeah, there. It seems like that's a thing with dolphins. Dolphins fall in love and like get crushes and stuff on humans that they're around a lot. I think in
And
every
are horny.
case. Yeah.
Like dolphins are weird about sex.
Yeah. Well, they have
Like
hypersexed.
hypersexed.
Like male dolphins have prehensile dicks, which I feel like if we had that, like, and by we,
I learned
mean
that
you and
from
me,
this
Connor.
group.
Yeah, like that.
We've talked about this.
I feel like that opens up a whole new avenue for like. I don't know. I don't want to think about it because I'll just get jealous.
But anyways, I do not think that kink has arisen with culture.
I
think
like the
that maybe
argument.
culture came from kink.
Oh, but the repression of kink could make kink stronger,
Ooh.
Sure.
right? And like make it even, you know.
Yeah,
I
it's a
think that
pressure
was-
cooker.
Who's
Yeah,
that
pressure
writer?
cooker.
Who wrote the Magus? Is it John Fowles? Did anyone read that? Or the French Lieutenant's Woman? I think that was his whole premise as a writer, was that during the Victorian age, things got like way kinkier because externally people were discussing sex less in public. And so by that process, the behind the scenes of sex actually started to, that was his theory at least. I don't necessarily believe this, but that's where the evolution of kind of like where we currently might understand or think about as kink kind of originated from.
I think it's kink shaming that came from that, which is how we define kink now, maybe.
If things were more, you know, open, it wouldn't have been considered kink. It would just be sex. And then,
Right.
so kink is created by deciding what is acceptable and what isn't.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Taboos create the outlier.
They create the sweet, sweet outlier.
This is like the best content we've created in the last 3 years. This is like
Dirty jokes are they always in season?
I feel like there's an important part of Taoism wrapped up in this idea of when kink came about too. Like the idea that like I feel like it was all just sex, and there could only be the appropriate kind of sex when you've made some of the sex inappropriate. Otherwise, it would all just be sex, and that's Taoist.
How is that Taoist?
The bad creates the good. The short supports the tall. You know, like that whole chapter.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And Taoism is hot.
It's kind
As
of
in
Sexy,
sexy,
sexy
or,
Taoism.
or it's on the rise,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak.
I hope it's on the
It's
rise.
so hot right now.
Yo, I'm gonna get on Taoist TikTok when we're done with this.
I bet there is some.
Taoism is so hot right now.
And
I
you
think
guys
there
all
should be a Taoist dating site.
you guys all read Ursula's Tao Te Ching, right?
I have not.
yeah.
It's fucking cool. It feels like you get to
I
hang
haven't.
out with Ursula.
That's cool.
Yeah.
There used to be a website that was the 5,000 ideograms of the Tao Te Ching that were hyperlinked to the just literal definition of that hexagram so that you could translate the I Ching yourself, which was a lot of fun. And then I
Wait, you
played-
just did I Ching from Tao Te Ching.
You're right, I always make this mistake. Tao Te Ching is what we're talking about. Forget
Yeah,
the
I
I
know what
Ching.
you're talking about.
Correct.
What
Yeah.
Connor said is accurate. He just used the wrong word.
I
Wait,
did.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I
he
stayed
jumped,
up all
he
night
jumped,
last night.
and I just wanted to point out that he jumped.
Right, because their ideograms are I Ching, yeah?
Hexagram.
No, the Chinese writing is ideograms.
Oh.
Hexagrams.
I am really psyched about China.
Hexagrams.
I might have said hexagrams at some point in it. I know that there was several times I was going to say hexagrams and had to change it to ideograms. But it's cool shit. I'm gonna have to go soon to return a lawnmower.
Yeah. I gotta get ready. I'm driving to New York State on Tuesday.
Where in New York State?
Lake George.
Yeah, that's crazy. Have a good time.
Thanks. Yeah.
I love it up there.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna drive to Florida.
Oh
Drive
man.
to Florida? What? That sucks.
I
Driving
will
to Florida
never,
takes forever.
ever drive anywhere.
Yeah, I no longer drive. I've given it up. It confuses people. I don't like doing it.
I hate driving. I hate cars. I hate them with a passion. But I still have one.
I don't have one. I love
I'm not-
driving only long distances, though. The longer, the better.
I'm driving to Atlanta and then driving to Florida, but I drove for so long for work that I would hate to do it. Like when I was working, I would really hate to do it not at work. But now I'm like, all right, I can do it. Yeah, because I don't do it all.
What city
I
in
know
Florida?
how to do it. Like I'm very good at it. Not really a city. It's like this spot at the beach where my entire giant family goes every year.
Okay,
Not
you know
really
why
a
I'm
city.
asking though is because
It's on the
Florida is
Panhandle.
fucking like 9 hours long. Like
Yeah.
if you're going to like Tampa
Yeah.
Bay, that's different than going to like
Yeah.
Miami.
You're going to the top.
Panhandle.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay,
Okay.
nice.
They call
Where
it.
the freaks
They call
are.
it LA. They call it LA.
Lower Alabama.
They call it LA.
Why?
Lower Alabama.
Oh.
Wow. So
That's pretty good.
you're actually going to be in
AKA
Alabama, or you're going to be in Florida?
Well, my whole family is like based in Birmingham, so it's like the place where everybody goes. It's basically just like due south of Montgomery, on the Gulf,
Okay.
in Florida. But
Yeah, that's where my family lives.
anyway, yeah, it's like we've literally been going to the same place since before I was born.
We've been going since before I was born. Did you go
Yeah,
in utero?
my family.
Were you there as a
Yeah.
fetus? That's what's up. Yo, you know what else is what's up? You see this?
You got gray hair?
No, I've specifically got the fucking Polly Walnuts wing starting.
Wait, who's Polly Walnuts?
He's a gangster.
The
Oh.
character from The Sopranos.
He's a gangster that who
yeah, I don't know
I
Sopranos.
stole my bit from, where I tell a joke and then I turn to someone else in the room and say, "Hey, did you hear what I said?" And I tell the whole joke all over again.
Ah.
I've wanted those ever since, I guess, like 2000 when I first saw The Sopranos. And now, here they are. They're starting.
Well, good for you. That's great.
I think maybe part of like me getting with the house getting sold and getting bum rushed and stuff, that maybe this is part of like why that had to happen.
I'm getting a touch of gray at my temples, although that makes me feel like Dr. Stephen Strange. And I'm really excited about it, but I think it was
I
because
have a lot of.
I
gray.
wasn't even the one. Finding this house process, I think, started causing that.
I believe it.
You had never had grays before, Connor?
No, I haven't really had gray, no.
I'm getting like a. You can't see it yet. but
As someone who used to.
A streak?
I'm gonna be a wizard witch person.
That's awesome. Rogue.
Magic of dispel shit.
Magic of the spell.
I have it a lot in here. I have it a lot in here, and I also have it a lot like up here. Ooh, there's a stripe.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, you have
That's
one.
nice.
Yeah, I can see it.
I
You
think
can't see mine. I probably won't actually ever get one.
I got
Jen,
a
have
lot.
you ever thought about getting your hair cut in a flat top?
Like David Lynch.
Well, a flat top.
Just thinking more like Gozer.
It would have to go. It would have to go up. How does it go up? My hair goes down.
I think you have to use a product.
You probably have to do it for decades, like David.
I will never use a product.
Yeah. Well,
Yo,
you'd look good.
can I just drop Proverbs 16:31? Gray hair is a crown of glory. It is gained by living a godly life.
My biggest fear is that
I'm
my
trying to
hair will
make it
disappear
look like
before
I
it goes
have
gray.
Oh.
Oh, King James translation's even better. The hoary head is a crown of glory, if it be found in the way of righteousness. I don't know why they're making it
They're
conditional.
pretty different meanings.
Yeah, I know. Why did they make it conditional? That's fucking strange. I guess they were like,
Because King James sucks.
I guess they're like, clearly not everyone with gray hair is righteous. We better fix this. Dicks.
Yeah, way to go, Shakespeare.
Shakespeare's King James?
That's a going theory.
Wow.
And it was the going theory at the psycho-Catholic church I went to.
God, wow. Huh. Well, I like the Vulgate.
The King James is revered for being like beautiful poetry or fucking whatever, right?
Right.
I gotcha.
It's nice to read.
Yeah, it's a neat thing. It's just like a weird. It's a neat style. I feel like it puts you in like it's like a soporific kind of a weird little verbal opiate because you get in there and it's just kind of like altered state when you read too much in a row.
All the these and thous.
I got a translation. It's like an old English on the left page, and then the translation of it on the right side of like most of the Old Testament, and it's fucking awesome. It's like so much more like Beowulf meets William Blake, even though it's it's like what people were saying, like this is the Old Testament in the medieval times or whatever. But it makes everything so much more exciting and a little weird.
The Bible's a pretty weird book.
It is fucking weird.
I didn't know it until I found that story where Abraham goes around the whole world with a hot wife, and he's like, if people know that this hot lady is my wife, they're gonna beat me up. So he tells them that she's his sister, so the king has sex with her. So God smites the king, and the king is like, if you fucking told me it was your wife, I wouldn't have had sex with her. Now my country's ruined. Go. And that happens multiple times. That's an insane story.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Really crazy.
Yep. It's weird that
because just like who would say my wife is so pretty, I'm going to not let people know that she's my wife so they don't know. Who thinks like that?
Old Abe.
One a long time ago.
Dumb old Abe.
The old ass guy.
It's a crazy notion to me.
It is crazy. Maybe it happened at the time.
I didn't realize Proverbs 16:30, which is the verse right before the one about the gray hair, is he who winks his eye devises perversity. He who purses his lips is bent on evil.
Oh no.
This is about duck face.
Yeah, it is.
I purse my lips when I'm skeptical of something that makes me concerned about my nature.
Well, we haven't. Is there anyone else want to tell us what you're doing now?
What?
I mean, we were kind of going through it. Like, I'm driving to Florida. I'm going to New York. I got gray hair. Any other wrap up this session stuff? I can't wait to talk about chapter 10 next time.
Yeah, it'll be good.
That chapter.
That's when he sees space.
So that means so Tim's gonna be gone this weekend, and then I'm gonna be gone the next 2 after that. So that means the next meeting would be
a month?
on 25th. 24th. 25th.
25th.
Damn.
I may or may not be able to do that one. I think I'm going out of town that week.
Should we reconvene via email in 3 weeks and see if we want to try a special edition Wolf Pack, not in the morning, not on a Sunday morning?
Yeah, we could do it in person.
I'd be into that, but I need to say I'm going to be gone from the 14th to the 19th.
And it is summer, like we're all over the place. It's summer. A lot of places take summer breaks. It's okay if we take like a month or whatever. Like,
yeah, I mean, it works out for
ideal.
me because I got to pack up everything over, before the end of July, all my stuff, and get rid of a lot of stuff, and et cetera, et cetera. So I probably feel like it's very likely over the next 3 weeks I would have one of those like, guys, I can't do it. I'm
In there.
like
or we could just tentatively plan on the 25th.
I may not be able to do that one.
Oh, right. Sorry.
We'll be able to tell closer to the date. We'll just talk about it.
We'll have to email. Sorry, viewers.
Sorry to our fans.
If they click the bell icon, they'll get.
No, they won't. They won't get any information. Wait, are there updates sent out, Ryan or Mark? Do you guys send out?
No, the bell icon just like sends an email when there's a live stream going.
Oh, okay.
Which might be why Johan's so on top of it, because we certainly aren't.
Johan said that the guy.
I always wonder that, like, how on earth does anyone know when we're meeting?
Oh, Johan has a great little thing here
He's
about
like a superpower.
about the story that about the dude and his wife and all that. It said the reason he said it was his sister was because he was afraid if he said it was his wife that he would get killed so that people could have sex with her.
Right. That is what I think is insane.
Okay. That's at least his motivation, though,
But
is
it's-
that he was trying to save his own life. Whereas if he says it's his sister, people will be like, oh, fuck that guy. I'm going to have sex with her.
Like, yeah, he thought he'd bring in this beautiful woman and he's like a foreigner and stuff. And he knows there's going to be dudes, like particularly kings, who are like, man, I'd like to have her, but I guess she's married.
Really
But
kings.
I could just fucking kill the husband, then she won't be married no more.
Yeah.
Yeah, that by itself is an insane story. But then
So
to have a
basically
person
he
suppose
knows-
that was going to happen,
He knows people
And
are
then-
going to have sex with her. It's
he
just
doesn't know that. He
about
supposes it.
self-preservation and making sure he
People
doesn't
are-
die in order for that to happen.
Right. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Johan says that.
Why did
okay,
he go?
okay.
Why was he going to the places?
A king
And
is
bringing
going to
her.
have sex with my wife.
Why does
did
he do it
Why was he
multiple
going from town to
times?
town? Why was he bringing this woman with him if he knew she was going to get raped?
After the first time that God smites the person who has sex with her and you get kicked out of a country, you can realize God's on your side and you don't need to do it anymore.
Wait, why was he going town to town?
Because he got kicked out of the last town for lying to everybody and saying that his wife was his sister, so they had sex with her, which caused God to smite them.
Why
So he
was
had to go to a new town where he did the same thing.
What,
The funniest thing I've ever heard in my life.
It's such a weird story.
it's in the scriptures.
It's the word of God.
Yeah,
the
it's
word
right
of
up
God.
at the top
God
of it.
literally said it.
God,
So they say.
God is like kind of like the David Lynch
Okay,
of
so we're going
religions.
to.
Definitely.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll get back in touch.
So we're going to get back in touch and potentially do it on the 25th, but maybe not the 25th.
Maybe we'll do it on a weeknight that week. Or Saturday morning, which sounds
No!
bad, but maybe we'll
Why do
work.
people keep talking about weeknights?
We might have to.
I'm
because
just saying,
I'm about to go to sleep.
I'm not saying it's going to be great, but it's better than not happening, you know? And then we can get back on schedule. It's just like
We might have to do one on a weeknight, I think is what we're saying.
a
A
special.
one-off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not like a
switch
new-
it.
Yeah, like a switcheroo.
Just the one.
Wolfpack special edition. Wolfpack drunk, not Wolfpack caffeine.
I'm fine with that.
Wolfpack Nights.
Wolfpack nights.
I'm totally fine with a one-off, a drunk one-off.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's
In
like.
fact, we could have it here because it won't be as hot at night.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
I'll go to your house at night.
Sure.
The night.
I volunteer for that.
Oh man, it's gonna be old school style of how do we fucking set up a camera?
Oh.
Every
I'll
episode.
leave that to someone else.
Work it out.
Okay.
It was
Okay.
always good when we had multiple cameras. That way it wasn't just looking at my Chrome dome.
I
Yeah,
think I have a couple of webcams laying around from work. So
I spend an embarrassing amount of these meetings looking at myself. I'm ashamed of how much I like looking at myself.
I think everyone does that.
that's the nature of the Zoom call.
You just said you don't want to look at yourself.
It's
I
funny.
don't want to look specifically at the back of my head. I prefer the front of my visage.
We can position you. You can be positioned where you're not. Where you're full frontal.
I can
Okay,
also
good.
I can also bring wigs. I have a few.
That might help. That could be good. Yeah.
I don't mind them seeing
Have
the
you
back
ever-
of my head.
Have you ever considered hats?
I have a lot
Yeah,
of
I
hats.
wear a lot of hats.
Yeah, I've seen you in hats.
Yeah, I'm a hat guy. Ooh,
Nice.
that's a paintballing hat.
Oh, I was thinking rave.
Nah,
It could go anywhere.
I was
Yeah,
thinking.
you need a pacifier around your neck and like big Dr. Seuss hands or something.
MTV Spring Break. baby.
When I
Yeah.
when I bought this, the concept was guy who has a DIY tigers petting zoo.
Oh, I didn't watch that show.
It was good.
Yes.
I didn't watch it either, but I know what you mean.
It's a good show. Now that I wear suits to work, I did a thing that I feel like is going to be really aggravating to certain people, where I bought a couple of flat caps to match the suits that I have.
I used to rock a flat cap. They go well with suits.
I gotta wear it backwards, but I think
I wore mine backwards.
which I call Jeff Ament style, after the bassist of Pearl Jam.
Oh. Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off
When
also
you
does
say
that.
flat cap,
He means a fat guy hat.
you mean
I
The
can
Greek
kind of
fisherman's
picture.
cap.
It's like a Kangol,
Tabby.
right?
Yeah, like a
Does it have a
Kangol.
bill?
Not necessarily a Kangol. It's just that you could like say
That style, yeah.
Yeah.
That shape.
Is it like a George R. R.
like a
Martin
bucket
hat?
hat?
Yeah, George Martin wears them.
Yeah, no, it's like a Samuel L. Jackson hat, or
Right.
Like a Scottish person.
I thought George R. R. Martin wore like a Popeye the Sailor Man style hat almost.
I think that he
wears
has
like
a
the skipper's hat.
I think it's
Yeah,
a Greek
definitely.
fisherman's cap that he wears.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, I guess that is a little different.
Yeah, it's got like the brim.
You mean
and
like a golfer, like a driver hat,
yes,
Yeah.
that's a flat cap.
where
yeah.
it's got the little brim and it kind of like tucks over it?
Yeah, the
Yes.
top of it's been attached to the brim.
Ah,
Yes, I have like 3 or 4 of those now, and that to match my formal wear for work.
Why would that upset anyone? You were like, I feel like this is gonna upset some people.
Some
Because he's going to look like he's in some kind of yuppie catalog selling clothes.
some people
Right.
hate flat caps. Like
Ryan knows my feelings about his hat collection, and he
Okay.
now just
Oh, that was
I didn't realize there
directed
was
towards
history
Mark.
here.
yeah, it was. I was the target of that for sure.
I see.
Okay.
but it makes I don't even know if I'd want them if I didn't know that it go to Mark's skin.
I should never say anything. I only make it worse.
I
Wise
get,
words.
You've made it better, Mark.
So good.
yeah,
the whole
you've
thing
brought
is more entertaining.
you've brought
That's
a joy into my
Yeah, we
life that
love
wouldn't be there otherwise.
What?
He's
Did
brought
you say my-
joy. You
Did
think
you
I'm a
say-
what?
Did you say my name? Did you say Jordan? The word Jordan?
Who?
You?
Ryan? Me?
Yeah.
Did I say Jordan? I mean, I said it today. Do you mean like?
Did you say it just now?
I
The show is over.
I think
What
he said
was the last-
joy.
What is the last thing you said before I started talking?
Oh, I think it was that Mark has brought joy into my life that wouldn't otherwise be there.
Joy.
Oh,
I think you heard joy.
yeah, I heard joy.
There you
A
go.
different woman.
It's a state of being.
Woman I'm not bringing into Ryan's life. That's
Club Charles gone for good.
No, it's opening in September.
Okay. Cool.
you heard it here first.
You did hear it here first. I think we're not supposed to talk about it, but
It's good.
this might be the internet, right?
You better watch out.
I mean,
Johan's gonna tell everyone.
yeah,
Joy watches Wolfpack, so
Yeah, the whole thing.
She's watched some of our stuff sometimes, I know.
no way, she's lying.
Okay. That could very well be.
She's doing that thing where she like takes a guess about something that might be there and might be.
I think
true,
Aaron
and
said
runs
if something's going on, Aaron said something and she twisted it into an entire
Yeah.
body of work.
Oh yeah, it was like she's got one little detail that works, and then she's just gonna see what she can get like from your cues that seem like they're right, and keep going with it. I mean, she's a genius at it. Don't make it true though.
Anywho,
Okay.
Yeah. Well, thanks guys.
You're welcome, Ryan.
I was very stressed out, and this completely distracted me. I haven't thought about any of my problems for like
Same.
3 hours.
But they're gonna come rushing back in the next couple of minutes.
Yep, as soon
That's
as
for
I-
me. I'm just talking about me.
No, me too. As soon as I like get into bed, like, well, I gotta sleep now because I'm going to work later, and then as soon as I'm trying to sleep, it's like, I'm never gonna
You
sleep
ever
again.
take Benadryl?
Oh, I have heard that that's good for sleeping. I mean, I have taken it, but usually for flying.
It'll knock you out.
Yeah.
Hey, you take Benadryl for flying?
Yeah, you know.
So go
I
to
thought you-
sleep.
Demerol was for flying, I thought. I mean,
Well,
I don't.
depends on what you want.
I don't get motion sickness, so I don't.
Well,
I
you-
take
wanna fall
Benadryl
asleep.
just to fall asleep.
Yeah, that's what you
Benadryl
said.
is like an antihistamine.
It is an antihistamine, but it has a pretty pronounced drowsiness effect.
I've taken I take what's it called, melatonin pills, like little crunchy melatonins.
I take that.
They don't. I feel like they don't put me down, but once I'm down, they keep me down.
Oh yeah, Benadryl is for like I would like
That's
to go
what
to
they're
sleep
for.
right now.
Yeah, Benadryl, it's like 20 minutes and you're nodding off.
Melatonin is for staying asleep.
It kind of puts me to sleep. But I don't know.
It works.
Different
It works
for
real good about the keeping you asleep.
I've heard that you should definitely never take it in the light though, because it's the hormone that's secreted
Yeah.
in the darkness. So if you
Yeah.
take it in the light, it can fuck up how your mind responds to darkness and make it so you can't fall asleep in the dark
Mhm.
anymore.
Mhm.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
take it in the light.
Oh man,
That's
I'm glad you
definitely
told me
for
that.
taking it.
That's like
Yeah.
the only time I've been taking it because that's when I gotta sleep on these.
But like if
doses.
it's dark in the room, it's okay.
I
But
have-
like
Yeah, I
You
bought
gotta
blackout
draw the curtains, man.
Yeah, I bought blackout curtains. They're pretty good, but they're not like, they're still.
they're probably good enough
It's still day.
for that. But like
I
not
mean, the
like
night isn't
rest of the
entirely dark.
I gotta. I just gotta say, I felt like this whole stream was like really pleasant. Like there wasn't any point where it was like, like just, come on, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. Like,
I
there's,
put forth a very good effort to curb my personality.
was that what it
Curb your
was?
enthusiasm.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, my personality lately has been. My post-quarantine thing is I get mad about everything.
Okay, and now I'm starting to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why that's my reaction to not having had to talk to anybody for a while, and suddenly, I mean, I guess I can easily come up with a reason why that's my reaction to it, but it is my reaction.
Well, I think today you turned a corner.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you did great.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I feel like you did the opposite. You were like, spreading like good vibes.
I was trying.
It worked.
Cool. Thank you very much. I'm happy that it worked.
And thank you
Happy
to
Unity.
Johan and Sanic for
Back unity forever.
yeah, yeah.
I think if we set up a Patreon, the two of them would. Like,
I would feel bad taking their money. I'd feel like those are the exact people that we should be putting on the guest list.
Yeah, there was a bunch of times today where I was like, when are we going to have Johan just have one of the windows here? Like, when are we just going to allow his face to be on this too?
I mean, I think it's
Participating so much.
been. I mean, I would hope he
Yeah.
would say something if he wanted to do that, but
I guess I don't know, Johan.
I guess I had some impression that like the outsider was the role that he liked.
Oh yeah, I'm not trying to imply. I felt like it was the first time that I noticed a thing is happening, and I don't think any of us are trying to have it happen. I just could see where this was going.
Maybe it's like once we're back in person totally and we figure out how to do that, one face on a screen, robot friend.
Ooh,
If that's how it goes.
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Mr. Millions, we could call him, for those of you who have read The Fifth Head of Cerberus.
Yeah.
On theme.
Was that?
So that's on theme.
Hmm.
Okay, well, I guess I'll turn the internet off now.
all right.
Bye.
Ending.
Okay. Bye, everybody. Have fun.